Hello and welcome. My name is James, or DancingGeek online, and this is episode 8 of the DancingGeek podcast. You can find me on all the social media using the links below in the show notes. And today, on the 22nd of October, I and Stitch, who is with me today as well, but is hiding I'll just come there, there's his bum. Oh, there we go. He's joining in today. I've got some whips to show you. I've got a whole bunch of stash to show you. I have some books to show you. I also have some shout-outs to do and an apology to make. And then some podcast news to finish us off. So, the whips, I'll start with the knitted ones, because there's not very much to show you, so I can speed through these two. For those of you who watched last week, or are sort of regular viewers and realise that last week's episode was a bit about a good 2 days late, I should have done my vocal exercise as my warm-up, shouldn't I? Pop a kettle pedal, copper-plated kettle, pop a kettle pedal, copper-plated kettle, there we go. Tres tigres trigas como en trigo en trigal. Tres tristes tigres. Anyway, I should have done that off camera really, shouldn't I? So, my socks, with the beautiful orange cuffs and then the gorgeous Kingfisher colourway by Fibre is the socks, which Deb so kindly gave to me. The orange is 5 Moons Penitent, and as I said, that is Kingfisher by Fibre. And yeah, I was sort of maybe here last time and I've done this, and that basically was what I did whilst chatting to the guys at Bakewell, because that's the only time I got any knitting done on the socks. Yeah, I was halfway through saying something, wasn't I, as usual. Basically not a lot of anything got done this week. Wednesday last week I recorded the podcast, but I wasn't feeling well enough really to do anything with it. Thursday I lay on the sofa feeling very sorry for myself. Friday I slowly re-edited it after I realised that the version I'd uploaded had no sound after about 40 seconds. And then finally uploaded it on Friday, and that was an all-day thing with sitting on the sofa feeling sorry for myself in between tasks. Saturday and Sunday I was very happy that I had some energy back, because then I went to Bakewell both days and had an amazing time, which I should tell you all about in a bit. But then Monday was, oh my god, recover from Bakewell. Bakewell day, and I didn't do very much at all. Tuesday was get some of the jobs done around the house, because quite frankly I had left a lot of stuff and needed to get it done, and as well as that, getting some prep done for the podcast news bit, and then today is recording day, so yeah, I've managed to fit some bits and pieces in when I wasn't doing anything else. And by that I mean not sat on the sofa feeling sorry for myself, because I had to do a fair amount of that this week. I was not feeling very good. Fortunately, today I am back on form, as you can tell. Or I hope you can tell anyway. So that sock has had a bit of work done on it, but not very much. Oh, and a shout out again to Ashley Lynn for the bag, thank you. I'm basically going to do this every time because, oh my gosh! So, bag love to Sharonota or Knitting Shazza, depending on which site you're on. Sharonota is her Ravelry name, Knitting Shazza is her Instagram name. This is the November square from Woolen Collectibles, which is a lovely cabled blanket square that I am making as part of the collection of blanket squares for Obi-Wan Knitter, who is Dan from the Bakery Bears podcast. And you can see I've got a little bit further on it again. I think I maybe only did like an inch's worth of cable. I've got a couple of inches to go, and then it's just the border at the top, so there's not masses more to do with it. And I'm really chuffed with how it's coming out again. But again, there's not really much more to say on that, so I shall pop it away. I'm racing through these today, aren't I? But then I've got a lot of stash to show you. Yes, I went to a knitting festival again, and yeah, I took a bunch of cash out and then dulled it again, basically. But then since I kind of knew I was going to do that, I kind of aimed lower with the cash. So there we go. I also feel like I kind of need to squat. I've set the camera too low. You'll just have to deal with the top of my head being cut off. I don't think it's actually that big a deal. So, Other whips, when I haven't been feeling so great and trying to concentrate on tiny stitches or cabling has felt like I couldn't do it, I have done some spinning. So this is the one I showed you last time. It has got a bit more on it, I promise, but you can't really tell. But there we go. So this is the Ross, either Fibre Blend or colourway, I don't know, from Hilltop Cloud that I showed you guys last week, and it's just had a bit more done on it, but there's nothing major to show on that. I did this during the FO and Die VKN, so our little Google Hangout, which you are all invited to. Just go over to the FO and Die podcast group on Ravelry, and the link and all that in there is listed. And obviously join the FO and Die group and go and watch the FO and Die podcast, because those guys are hilarious and fantastic, and I love them. Big love to you guys. Hi Ellie, hi Dave. So I did this during the VKN, which meant that when the hook came out of the top, you can see I got it with the tape on, because... Oh, and I'm just reminding myself, I need to say, snap twinsies to Maya from Show Me Lane, because she's finally got this... Oh dear God, excuse me guys, there may be earthquakes. Yep, there we go. Stitch decided that he wanted to climb in and around the camera. Right, back to what I was saying. Maya finally got her spindle from the lady who's taken months to get it to her, and it turns out it's the same spindle that my aunt gave me. Now, my aunt gave me a old, slightly broken one, and so the tape was already there on it, and yes, whilst I was spinning, the hook came out. So I spent some time in the VKN with my butt in the air trying to find all of the bits and pieces, well, the hook basically, and just shoved it back in, and then it works fine again. But yes, so I think it's alright as a drop spindle, but it's the only one I've ever used, so what would I know? But I'd be interested to know, Maya, what your thoughts on it are on it now that you've used it a bit. I find it a little bit heavy. But then, that's because I'm comparing it to my other spindle now that I have, which is this one, which is a Turkish spindle, which is much lighter. And you can see that this one has a whole bunch more on it. And check out those gorgeous colours. Nom 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 nom. So I've been doing, as I say, a bunch of spinning when I haven't been able to really face doing anything else. That at least I could do. Just relax and just tool it out. And yeah, spinning I find just really doesn't require any effort or any thought or anything. I can just get on with it. So, but you know, it's still a whip. This, the Turkish fibre that the fibre that I'm spinning on the Turkish spindle. There we go, little sentence. Is Breaking Dawn from British Bee Knits. Excuse the crinkles. So there is British Bee Knits, and that's Rebecca. She's British Bee Knits on Instagram and on Ravelry and on Etsy. So if you want to get any of her fibre, check out British Bee Knits on Etsy. This one is called Breaking Dawn. I can't remember anything about the fibre blend. I'm not even sure I ever knew anything about the fibre blend, because Rebecca was very kind and actually just gave me a little braid of her fibre. She said, go on my shop and pick something out. And I was like, yay! And I'm just going to take it out of the plastic, really can't I? Here we go. Check out those colours. Oh. So it's a bright red, a really lovely deep yellow, and then with black running through it. So Breaking Dawn. The inspiration there, I think it looks like fire. Flames flickering away and burning wood. I sound like a pyromaniac there, don't I? And I really like the fact that in it, let me show you guys this. Let's see if I can actually get it to focus enough. Yeah, that should do it. I think, yeah, you can see that. So you can see the strands of red, black and yellow as they spiral around. And you've got quite a lazy spiral here, and then a medium spiral here, and then quite a tight spiral here. And that's because I'm not a particularly consistent spinner, this being my second project, the first one being the other one I'm still doing. So I'm in the middle of my first two sort of full spinning projects. I've spun little samples, about 3 little samples, on each of the spindles, 3 in total over the 2 spindles, just to have tested them out. And now I'm doing a full skein on each, so that's quite fun. But yes, the spiralling, and then sort of once it's done up, you can see that the body of it comes out this kind of burnt orange colour, when the reds, yellows and blacks kind of merge through being knit up, well, through being, in this case, just balled up, and I'll be interested to see how it knits up. I've no idea what I'm going to do with it. It's quite thin, so I should probably ply it and then have, I don't know, a fingering weight to do something with. Maybe some mittens or something, or a hat. But I don't know. I didn't think that far ahead. I just went, yay, a spindle and some fibre, woohoo, spin, spin, spin. And like I said, it's a really nice project if I don't have energy for something a bit more taxing on the brain, because the spinning is quite straightforward. Hello. And if it goes wrong, it's sort of fairly easy to just kind of wind it back a bit, undo it, and then start to pull it in. I have had occasional times where it keeps snapping on me. And I think, well, obviously I've done something wrong somewhere and I'm not quite sure what, so I'll sometimes wind back quite a bit, pull out the last sort of yay long section of yarn, pull out the first yay long section of fibre in terms of the bit that's already started to spin up where it snaps, take those out, I'll rip them up a bit to turn them back into fibre. Incoming kitty. Sorry. And he's clearly got some energy today. And then actually go with the good yarn and the fresh fibre, start spinning again so that I'm back into the swing of things, as it were, and then get some of the recycled fibre, as it were, and just work that in along with the fresh. So it's still fresh fibre really, but obviously it's been spun once and then pulled apart again, so that just seems to help me keep it. If I try and just straight away reuse it, it just keeps going, because I don't know, because it's not sort of tangled up enough. It's all been pulled out and is just laying. I guess. I don't know enough yet. I'm a total beginner with spinning, but loving it. Absolutely loving it. Okay, so they are all of my works in progress. I don't have any FOs. I don't really have any naps other than the ones I told you about as my October queue, because I haven't really done much this week. No, that's not for you to play with. That's for me to show the lovely people at home. So, we can get on to the stash. The first one I'll show you is my enhancement for my... I think that's fibre rather than yarn. Good. Some bits of fluff in the zip, I'm worried I'd caught the wool. So the first one is an enhancement to my Bartley pattern test knit project, because I got... Can I get it to focus on this? If I hide? Go on! Ugh. I mean, it's not the world's most exciting thing, but there we go. Needles. That's all I wanted, was just a nice in-focus shot of the needles. So these are the Symphonies from KnitPro, who are Knitter's Pride in the US, not Knit Picks, apparently. Yes, so these are wood, although they're quite slick compared to the bamboo needles that I did my test gauge on, but they're not as slick as the metal needles. So I'm going to try them out. I need to do a test gauge and everything on them. I haven't even done anything like that. I really want to get this done because I'm very excited about it. But yeah, so this week has cost me in terms of I've fallen behind on lots of CAL deadlines and everything, so we'll just have to see what I can fit in the next week. But yes, that's my provisional cast on to do my gauge swatch, and that's as far as I've got. And that basically was already on the bamboo needles, and I just pulled it over onto this one. That's what I managed. But I'm quite excited to try out the symphony needles because they're very, very pretty, so I really want to like knitting on them. And then I can have an excuse to add them to my Christmas wish list. Right, so needles. And then, part three of the lovely, lovely gift parcel that I got from Rebecca. So, as well as the gorgeous fibre and the Turkish spindle on which I am spinning it, she also sent me a little bit of her hand spun, which is obviously much better than mine. Well, again, I'm going to have to do a little, here we go, refocus the camera, there we are, come on, follow me back, there we are. This is Hilltop Cloud, but it's called the Orange Rainbow Sprinkles, so it's not the Ross, I'm assuming, which is 50% BFL, 12.5 merino, 32.5, no, 12.5 bamboo, 32.5 merino. Well, it's actually written 13 and 32, but you know, I figure it's usually in multiples of 8s, isn't it? And it's gorgeous. I'm guessing the big one is plied and the little one is singles, but it might not be. It might just be two. It might be like a little test bundle and then because it looks like they're both plied. I don't know why there's like a mini one attached to the slightly bigger one. But it's basically like a little mini skeins worth of some lovely, lovely, ever so soft, squishy handspun from Rebecca as well. British Bee Knits. The lovely Rebecca, who is usually on the FO and Dye Virtual Knit Night VKN as well. So come along and meet the awesome Rebecca. So I'm very excited by this, and I have no idea what I'm going to do with this yet. So this has gone in my little mini skeins stash kind of thing. So I've started to accumulate some sort of end of project leftovers, little 20 grams worth of things. I got some mini skeins from Deb at Fondant Fibre when she very kindly sent me a little parcel. And I have one as well in hand spun from Rebecca. So I'm thinking I need to do like a little scraps project, and I don't really like the idea of doing a scraps blanket. I would rather do something a bit smaller, so maybe like scraps hat or scraps shawl scarf type thing or something, or scraps mittens, I don't know, but something like that, something more accessories than a full-on blanket. But yeah, Stitch is finally settled beside me, so I'm trying not to disturb him so he doesn't run around and knock the camera again. So I'm looking at this massive pile of stuff next to me that I have to show you guys, or rather that I have to show you guys, as opposed to have to show you guys. So I shall just start with the bag nearest to me. There's going to be a fair bit of crinkling in between. I apologise because everything's in bags or plastic or what have you, because I just brought it all through. So next to me is Fibre, so I'll start with that. In here I have some gorgeous, I can't remember what it is now. Oh, I didn't write it down. I've got the vendor's details and everything, so I can go and check it out. Some gorgeous fibre. Now this has got quite a few kind of twiddly locks and stuff in, which is really nice. And you can see that the orange dye is really variegated, I suppose. It's not consistent. It's lovely and mixed in terms of how much it's taken up and what have you. There's some really, really deep dark orange parts on the top there, and then some really light it's coming off as quite white in my view, kind of, but it's not actually white anyway, it's just a very pale orange. But this is from a farm in Derbyshire, and that is Brough Lee Farms. Where did I put? There we go. Suddenly thought, oh, I don't have any of the information for everyone for me to give a shout out to all my lovely local vendors. And that's because I'm an idiot and left it on the side. So here we go. Give me a second. Here we go. I'm never fully prepared, am I? So this is from Brough Lee Farms. These guys, yeah, are really close, and you see, I'm having a real moment of I've forgotten to make any notes from Bakewell, haven't I? Never mind. Just carry on, James. Just carry on. I'm picking bits of veg matter out of it now. Beep. There's only one little bit actually. It's really clean. Yeah, so I sat and had a really long chat with the two ladies that were on this stall actually up at Bakewell. Both had Antipodean accents. One was definitely from New Zealand because she told me she was. The other one I'm assuming was from New Zealand as because they were kind of busy mates and stuff, and maybe therefore they both came from New Zealand, but she could be Australian and just have a fainter accent. I don't know. I will have to find out when I go and visit the farm, because she did actually invite me to go and visit the farm, which would be awesome, just to go and see the sheep and stuff and say hi and hang out, and how cool is that? So one of the really big benefits for me from Bakewell, I'm just holding this up because Josh said about my podcast, he goes, James doesn't show very much. Now Josh, don't worry, I didn't take offence, because he was like, don't take it the wrong way, don't be offended. I'm not going to take offence, Josh, it's absolutely fine. You can tell me you hate my podcast. I'll cry, but I won't take offence. So I'm holding this up here so you've got something else to look at other than my audiobook, just for Josh. So Josh, look at the Fibre, Josh, look at the Fibre. He's so many episodes behind though, I don't know if he'll ever get to this episode, so he may never see me saying this. Yeah, anyway, Bakewell, what was really nice about going and doing a wool show in Derbyshire was because it was a little local one, in the sense that it wasn't sort of a national level one. So it didn't necessarily attract people from all over the country, but what that meant instead was you got a lot of people from the same area who kind of get to know each other, and you can form a sort of geographically based community as well, which is actually really, really nice. Particularly as someone who's done a lot of connecting online, there's not a lot of getting to see people face to face, which is why things like meetups and stuff are so much fun. But, sorry, distraction. And I've lost my train of thought, but yeah, so that's why I really enjoyed going to Bakewell, because I got to meet these lovely ladies and get invited to a farm that isn't 3 hours away, and yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna just chill a second because my brain is having a moment of just not coming up with anything to say. So I'll pop this away and give my brain a moment to catch up with my mouth. So, Brough Lee Farms, yeah, she raises sheep on her farm, long-haired sheep, and I want to say alpacas, I could be wrong, but she has two different animals on there. Apparently I have a really bad memory from this weekend, I'm not sure what that's about. Do you know what, it just means I'll have to do another shout out in the future with them, won't I? And I'll have better information for them. Let's move on, because otherwise I'm just going to sit here not remembering anything. So, did you see a glimpse of it? The next thing to show you guys fibre-wise is another gorgeous orangeness, and funnily enough, another Derbyshire sheep. So the fleece this has come from, or the sheep the fibre is from, is called white-faced woodland. Now you can see that the actual bat I bought from Natural Born Dyers in their little Bakewell stand. I hadn't seen their bats when I saw them in Woolfest. I don't know that they had them there, but they had them in Derbyshire. And this is called Campfire, and you can sort of see why. It's got all those kind of flame colours. It does have some reds in there, and some oranges, and some yellow. But it's all very much around that lovely orangey colour. Ooh, squish, 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 squish. It's not 100 grams, I don't think. I think it was something like maybe 60 grams or 30 grams or something random. I can't quite remember. You can probably guess from looking at it compared to, say, my hand size, how much is in there, because it doesn't have a weight on here. But yes, I was very excited to have something else to play with, and it was really cool to find out that actually there is a Derbyshire type sheep called the white-faced woodland. There were some plain white, or natural rather, bats that I could have bought from the Brough Lee farm stall, but I'd already bought this, and I thought, well, I already have some lovely orange, red, orange, yellow fibre. I don't think I need more fibre from that sheep just because it's a Derbyshire sheep, but I was quite excited. So that's another one for me to play with from Natural Born Dyers. And then I was buying some yarn and spotted this beauty curled up on the Rosie's Moments stall. And it even comes with this lovely little sachet of lavenderiness. Hang on, I'm not holding this very well for the camera to pick it up. Let me just tidy this up a bit. So yes, Rosie's Moments was one of the first stalls that I saw when I walked into Bakewell, and one of the first things I saw in the stall was the bargain bin, so I was ferreting through that. And the chappie on the stall came over and was like, "Are you okay? No, do you have a ferret through?" And I just said, "Oh yeah, well, I'm worried about sending the yarn flying everywhere." And he went, "Oh, okay." And then he went, "I'll tell you what, I'll get you a chair." And I was like, "Oh, isn't that lovely?" So he got me a chair. So I sat down and started going through the yarn. And then Deb from Fondant Fibres said hi whilst I was ferreting through the yarn. So I had a quick hug with her and a chat and stuff. And whilst we were chatting, the chap came back and was like, the chair was for you to put the yarn on, not to sit on. And not in that way. He was like joking. He was like teasing me about it. But I was like, oh yeah, that would be sensible, wouldn't it? I was like, well, I've got a lap now, and I'm sat down, which clearly was the better option for going through a bargain bin. So I did. I then started to put some yarn on it, but I'd kind of chosen by that point and was chatting with Deb as well and stuff. So, hi Deb. But yes, so what was I saying? I wanted to show you guys this and the lovely little lavender sachet that came with it. And that's her label for Rosie's Moments. And on the inside it just says autumn colouring, 100 grams of merino. But there is her email and her Etsy shop. My thumb's not in the way, so there we go now. For Rosie's Moments. So she had some lovely yarns hanging up on the stall, but I'm afraid I would have to admit I did basically just raid her bargain bin and grab this lovely little bit of fibre. Now it doesn't say, well, it says it's merino, but it's certainly not extra fine, I wouldn't expect, because the fibre itself isn't super soft. It feels quite dense. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it just needs, I don't know. You see, I just basically saw the colours, didn't I? And went, ooh! What I didn't realise was actually, until I looked at it in a bit more detail, if I show you the end, you can see it's actually just 3 braids, or rather 3 lengths of fibre that have then just literally been braided. It's not a braid in the sense like, excuse the rustling, I'll get Deborah's back out, Rebecca's back out, apologies. So this is a fibre braid in the sense that it's one of those where you pull the end and it comes undone and will keep coming undone and coming undone and coming undone. And it's not like that. It's a braid in the very literal sense of 3 strands woven together or braided together, which I didn't clock, and which is fine. And I guess it kind of just gives me, rustle, apologies again, more control over what I do with the different colours in it. But I don't really know what to do with different colours in it, but I just really like the colours. I was like, oh, it's autumnal and it's only £5, so I got it. And now I don't really have a clue what I'm going to do with it. But hey, so that's a bit more fibre. Pop that back away. And then finally, I got this. I don't quite know why I got this. Other than I really wanted to support the stallholder. I really wanted to just buy something from it. So this is from Amber Valley Alpacas. I haven't weighed it yet, but it's hefty. It's a heavy bag of seconds, but it's still good to spin, as she's labelled it. And this looks very similar. I can get some out to show you, can't I? It looks very similar in sort of texture, I suppose, to the kind of stuff that my friends gave me that I showed way back when in Stashless. I think, yeah, I did show you guys. I'm sure I've shown you it. Where it's kind of these, come on, there we go, small locks of fibre and what have you that, you know, I can then try and tease apart or what have you to work with. And Ingrid, who is the lady on the stall from Amber Valley Alpacas, was saying that Sori usually makes a thinner fibre than the alpaca you would normally use for knitting, what have you. And she said that Sori is often used for weaving. And I'm down with that. Okay, excuse me a second. If that's what I need to do with it in the end after I've spun it up, is it's more suited to weaving than knitting, then that's fine with me because I would love to do some more weaving. Here's the card for Amber Valley Alpacas. I don't know if you can hear Rory meowing, but he is rather insistently at the door. But he keeps wanting in and out, so... But it is cold outside. So yeah, Ingrid was saying that they do spinning workshops and all this kind of stuff at her farm, and again that's not far away from me either. So another farm for me to go and visit locally, which is quite exciting. Come on then, Rob. And yeah, and the fact that I've already got a bit of alpaca fibre similarly isn't a bad thing, because this stuff, it was seconds, it was a big bag for 10 quid. So I'm not worried about ruining it. I can just play with it, destroy it, dye it, cut it, burn it, glue it, whatever I want to do with it. And I'm not going to worry that I'm destroying some lovely, lovely fibre braid as opposed to something like this, which I treat very carefully and spin up, and it will be my hand spun and it's very special. I can kind of be a bit more relaxed with this. It kind of feels like it's a bit like play fibre. Which, to be fair, a couple of my other things are really as well. So, but I just wanted it. It's like, I don't want to buy your stuff. She was saying it was the last, what she had in the store. She didn't have very much left at the end. She said it was the last of this year's harvest. That's it, then until next spring or something. So, kind of cool to just grab a little something. So that's all the fibre that I got. Right, okay, so I shall move on to some yarnage. Yeah, I'm feeling a bit spaced. I don't know if maybe I'm still not quite 100%. Meh, move on. So, yeah. I have one of these full of yarn, but you'll be shocked to know, if I lift this up and actually just show you the top here, I don't think you can see any orange in the top. I mean, there is some in there, obviously, but it's not in the top. So let's go through it. So this one was also from the Bruffley farm stall, but this was from the other lady that isn't actually part of Bruffley Farms, but is friends with the lady from Bruffley Farms, and kind of goes out there and hangs out there, and was on her stall with her. And Stitch, can you leave my Fibre alone, please? Go on, go on. Don't make me. Oh, fine. As long as you don't actually play with it. Are you just sniffing it? Oh God, it's climbing in the bag! Come here, you. Let it go. Let it go, let it go. Can't hold it back anymore. Musical interlude, guys. Let it go, let it go. Oh God! Cat, what is wrong with you? Go on. Shoo! I'm going to shut the door. There we go. Oh dear. I don't mind him sort of being around, but if he's going to start digging around and everything, it's very distracting. I don't want him wrecking stuff whilst I'm trying to talk to you guys. So, as I was saying... oh no, I should have her details as well. You see now, Bruffley Farms lady, I didn't get her name. Maybe I will, maybe I do have it on here. Because I got a whole bunch of things from her actually, which I should also do a shout out for, really, shouldn't I? So, one of the things that the guys at Bruffley Farms do, as well as their woolcraft workshops, yeah, so they do woolcraft workshops. And in fact, I think I've already shown you the card that has all their info on, so yeah, that's fine, I don't need to show you any of that. They also do what's called a spin-in, which is a monthly social group for spinners, knitters, crocheters and fibre craft people. And it's just basically bring your craft along and some food and chill out with other people for the day. It goes from 10 till 3 on the second Tuesday of the month, except for April and August. And it just says let us know that you're coming. I think that's because obviously there's some months where it's not happening. It's a no tuition day, this. I guess that just means it's not like somebody's going to teach you, but if you're hanging out with peeps, you can ask questions, right? Can't you? It's normal. And it's like a £4 cover charge just for access to a whole bunch of spinners and carders and looms and libraries and stuff. So that sounds pretty darn cool. Although you have to bring your own bobbins. But hey. Yeah, so that looks kind of cool. So I'm probably going to go to one of those in the near future and see what happens. And it's at... I guess it's at the farm. And the fibre and yarn from the farm will also be there on sale and stuff. Yeah, there you go. It's the first time I'm actually properly reading the leaflet. It's like, yay, spinning! That sounds awesome, I'll come to something. No idea when it is. But yeah, so if you're sort of not too far from me, and I know some of you aren't, because if you got down to Bakewell, you can probably get down to one of these. Then maybe you're interested. Check them out. The website is just bruffleyfarm.com if you want more info. They also are involved with a crafty afternoons at the Medway Community Centre, which is in Bakewell. And this specifically is with Monica Haddock, who is the lady whose yarn this is, so sort of the attachment onto Bruffley Farms, as it were. Doesn't sound particularly pleasant, I apologise, Monica. But she brought back from New Zealand, it's a mixture of 50% merino, 30% possum and 20% nylon. It's not the cheapest because it is a sort of an imported yarn all the way from New Zealand. So it was about £9, it was £8.95 yeah, for 50 grams or £17.50 for 100 grams. It's obviously fairly limited because it's whatever she managed to bring back with her from New Zealand. But she was telling me about the possum stuff in it. So she said it is a bit of a luxury yarn, which I will look forward to trying. I have to admit, it does feel really nice. It is a little bit tickly. If I show you it up close again, you can probably see that it's, yeah, you can totally see that it's got a little bit of a of a furry hairiness to it. But it's not scratchy or unpleasant in that sense. Possum is apparently extremely warm, as it's self-insulating fibre. Excuse me, there's an imposter in the garden. I have to go and check on that. Sorry about that, guys. I'm feeling quite casual today. Don't know what it is. There's no pretense of any kind of professionalism going on today. I'm just totally... I think I'm only about 50% here. Yeah. Right, yeah, so the possum. Where's the info? Yeah, it's apparently very warm because it's a hollow fibre, so a bit like alpaca in that sense. Mind you, it said it is a self-insulating hollow fibre. The only other fibre like this is polar bear, apparently. But I think alpaca's meant to be a hollow fibre, so I'm not quite sure what that means. It's a very short fibre, so it's been blended with New Zealand merino, and a little bit of nylon for strength and so on. Yada yada yada. Yeah, so the reason she said, what she was telling me a bit more about the possum stuff was the possums were apparently introduced to New Zealand, and my New Zealand loving friends or New Zealand based friends will be able to confirm or deny this, but this is the story she gave me. I trust her. Is that possums were introduced to New Zealand as a food source, I'm assuming for people. And then the usual thing of you introduce a non-native species, it gets loose, it goes wild, it breeds like crazy, it doesn't have any natural predators. The local livestock aren't used to that animal, so they don't have any defences against it. It's run rampant, and it is apparently wreaking havoc with the New Zealand rainforest. So they cull possums, and then their coats, the fibre is reclaimed from their coats to make into things like possum yarn. So that's kind of cool. So she was kind of going, you know, it's good for the New Zealand rainforest to be supporting the production of things like possum fibres, because then that supports the culling of possums, which are going crazy and destroying the rainforest. It's kind of an interesting idea that it's environmentally friendly, given that you're supporting the culling of an animal, which I understand to be responsible management, but not necessarily eco-friendly, because killing isn't that friendly a thing to do, even if it's a responsible thing to do, to restore balance to an environment that we have gone and upset. But yeah, so I still think it's probably worth doing if you know all the info behind it is true. And she has a folksy shop if you're interested. That's folksy.com/shops/Monica Haddock Textiles. If I can get it to focus on there. Yes, there we go. So help save the New Zealand rainforest. She has other things on there as well. She's got woven and crochet crafts, including rugs, bespoke goods to order, yada yada yada. So you can all hand woven cushions from for £10 and other lovely goodness. And these were just wonderful people that I spent ages at their store just chatting to. So they're lovely, lovely people. So you can go and check them out. And I shall be heading along to the spin-in and crafty afternoons and what have you, and looking forward to doing something with this yarn, which is very interesting. Let's put these off to one side as well, because I've talked about those guys already. So that's one yarn down. This isn't going to be a long one, is it, guys? No! Now, I haven't actually gone and checked what the colourway for this is, because it doesn't say on here, but it's the West Yorkshire Spinners Signature 4-ply. So it's 75% wool, 25% nylon, and in total 35% BFL, so there's 40% unknown, just generic British wool. It does say it's all British wool. Well, it's got the British wool symbol on it, so it is British wool with nylon, one assumes. It doesn't actually specifically state that, but it's West Yorkshire Spinners, which are a British brand, British wool, British blah blah blah, British flag, British everything, rah rah, British. And as I said, I've been looking to find out about and support all the British wool industry side of it, dyers, producers, etc. So it's another one. West Yorkshire Spinners I mentioned before because they're who I got my burnt orange Aran from for my Bartley pattern test knit. And they had a little basket of this near the door at Bakewell from I think it was from Skeins, because I think they're either related to, I think either the lady knows them that runs it, or they support it, or they sponsor it, or I don't know, but they were right near the front of the door, and I think they were Skeins, and somebody's like crochet kits and stuff. It's one of those weird situations where the people near the door that are selling usually it's like a prime location because obviously everyone's going past. So it's usually the organisers or whoever uses their crafts that are there. So I guess it was, but it wasn't obvious. But what I'm not sure about, because I chatted to Carol, who helped me when I had the palaver about my bag, which I'll tell you more about afterwards. For you who already know what have you, and but haven't seen, the answer was no, I never found it again. But she was saying, you know, she was only going to do it 1 year, and then her friend said, oh, do it another year, do it another year. So I wasn't sure if this was the first year. But I've had other comments from people saying that make me think it was the second year that it's run. And it says on the back of the leaflet now coming to 2015, so that would make sense, wouldn't it? In 2013 she wasn't necessarily going to do it again, but then everyone said, oh, you know, we've been telling everyone we're going to do it in 2014, so we're doing it in 2014. So, but anyway, it's the second year maybe that it's running, so it's still fairly new, a bit like Yarndale. Slightly smaller scale, but still really good fun. Totally going to go next year. Really enjoyed myself. I think the colourway on this, I think it's Owl, because it looks like I remember seeing that somebody did a series of burnt named colourways that were similar to this, like a little bit of one colour, a little bit of other colours, and then a light colour with dark specks, so you get this kind of like dots, almost flecks, where a stitch is a dark colour in the light. The colours are sort of quite a muted, but a deep but muted, I don't know, green, like a sage, and there's a chocolatey brown, a very light caramel brown, and then this cream with the grey splotches, and then just the grey solid as well. So you can see all of that for yourself there and there. So and I'm really excited. It's a 4-ply. It's because it's a bit more commercial. This was like, yes, I just want to make this into socks, so this will be a sock yarn. Although I have started to use Indie for making socks as a special treat. I want to make myself loads of socks, and if I buy something like this, it's slightly less commercial than it could be. It's good British brand and all of that, but I don't mind, you know, it was £7.50 or something for a ball rather than £16. So, yeah, sort of half the cost of an Indie dyer skein, which therefore, you know, the Indie dyer skeins I want to use for something really good and nice, like my lovely hat, which now feels like my signature piece because I haven't knit another one yet, so I keep wearing this one. And I really like it. And I keep, when I go to events now, so the last 3 that I've been to this year, I had people go, oh yeah, I recognise you from your hat, so it works. Yeah, so I think it's the Owl colourway. You can correct me if I'm wrong, I will correct myself if I'm wrong in the future, but when I go and put it all up on my stash page, I haven't uploaded it to Ravelry yet, I haven't taken the photos or anything, I'll have to try and do that whilst we've still got some light. It's getting dark earlier, guys. Then I will check out all the colourways and everything and get all the right details. But I was quite slapdash when it was my buying. I was just like, yes, give me, I don't care. I don't care what it is, it's pretty, I want. It's being very indulgent, let's put it that way. So my next skein of awesomeness is this little beauty, which is a semi-solid blue. It's quite a aqua blue, I suppose. It's not quite turquoise. I'm trying to think of the other fancy names for blues that I can give you the one that it is, but you can see for yourself. That's why it's a video podcast, right? Almost aquamarine. There we go, there's a nice fancy word for what I think it is, aquamarine. It's 100 grams of DK, it's organic merino, and it's slightly reduced, bargain bin hunting, from Rosie's Moments. I gave her a shout out earlier. Etsy shop is just Rosie's Moments. Her email is rdodo72@gmail, and she had a little badge on with her Ravelry name of rdodo. So I'm assuming she either likes dodos or her surname is actually Dodo. I'm not sure which. But R as in the letter R, Dodo as in DODO. 72 for Gmail for her email, or just rdodo on Ravelry. So I need to go and add her as a friend and find all of her shops, and I will be, I know I set it up last week and I haven't done anything with it, but obviously I haven't really done anything. I will be adding all of the dyers and producers and what have you that I've shouted out over all of my podcasts to my UK dyers. In fact, I really need to call it my UK producers or UK yarn or Fibre sellers or something. UK sellers page or something else. I need to rename it anyway. Just with a bit of info and stuff, just so that you guys can just link through and what have you, because I think that's a really good idea that one of you guys suggested, and I'm going to get on that when I'm having one of my administrative days. Yeah, I have no idea what I'm going to do with it. It was pretty, I wanted it, I got it. Very much the same story with this. Again, no orange yet, guys, hey, but check this out. So it's this kind of yellow and black kind of bees and wasps. It's not called either of those, it's called Daffodil Fields, which I think is probably a more sensible name than bees and wasps. But it does make me think of bees and wasps. There's definite variegation in the colours. There's more than one yellow in here. And it's actually a brown colour rather than a black, really. So there's quite a mustardy yellow, then there's quite a bright yellow, then there's a faded yellow where obviously it's not gone in as much and it's much paler. And then there's overlap between the yellows and the browns, and then there's just the solid brown area and stuff. So again, if I held that up a little bit closer, a little bit longer, you can maybe just see as I turn it there, some of the other colours popping through, some of the mixes of colours popping through in that yarn, which is really nice. This one's a 4-ply, it's 80% merino, 20% nylon, so it's kind of a sock base. It was reduced, so again, I'd be quite happy to make this into socks. It wasn't that expensive to start with, actually. Rosie's Moments, fairly reasonably priced. And it was just the bargain bin the chap on the store was saying was just sort of end of lines and that kind of thing. So very similar to when I got some of the bargains at Countess Ablaze's Open Studio Day. So another exciting yarn. Next. I hope you guys are settled in. So this one, Josh, is this enough stuff for me to show you? I'm only kidding. I really am. So this is a gorgeous grey skein. It's a semi-solid. There we go, because it's not entirely solid because it is a hand-dyed, but it's fairly consistent. It's only a subtly semi-solid. If I show you that patch, you can see that the two parts going in different directions are slightly different greys. It's not just from shadows and what have you. The top one is slightly darker grey than the bottom one, but it's only very subtle. This is from the awesome A Little Bit Sheepish stall. Just checking you can see the whole card there. I'm not blocking anything, am I? There we go. Who again I stood and had a good long chat with, as well as basically every stall I stood and had a good long chat with, so you can just assume that I did that for everybody. So she has a website, alittlebitsheepish.co.uk, but she's based in Loughborough. Fiona Hamilton McLaren. Now there is a good name, good Scottish name, Hamilton McLaren. I don't know if she is, she didn't sound Scottish, but she's certainly got some Scottish ancestry with a name like that. So it is BFL nylon, 75-25 sock yarn. The colourway for this grey is You Can't Take the Sky From Me, which immediately makes You Can't Take the Sky From Me. I don't know the theme too well enough, I apologise. It's really weird. Firefly I have watched, but I didn't really get into in the way I have some other stuff. So if you're a Firefly fan, you know what I'm talking about, and you already know the tune. And if you're not, you don't know what I'm talking about, and it doesn't matter. But you should go and watch it because it's amazing. There is only one series, and then there's a film that came afterwards because they cancelled the TV series, and then everyone went, no! So Joss Whedon, this is, he's the guy who produced it, the producer, or rather the genius behind, scriptwriter, etc., extraordinaire, behind Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which was something I definitely did obsess over, rather dramatically. But I got this because she had all these really, really nice, I call them solids, really. She did say they are semi-solid, and technically they are, but they're so subtle that I see them as solids. Sorry, Fiona, but I just do, okay? But she had some gorgeous, gorgeous colours. I could have bought one of everything from her stall. And I thought, well, actually, I've been talking about getting some grey to mute out, or to, you know, when you've got a colourway like this, the yellow in this, or some of the oranges that I've got where it's just orange, you know, not, you know, this and brighter oranges that I have in focus, it doesn't matter, you've got the colour. If you stripe it, say, with something like this grey, you can see the orange colour more because it's not so in your face. You can actually see some of the detail of the colour a bit easier because your eyes aren't overwhelmed by it. So I thought, well, that's an excuse to get some grey from her, and it's sock yarn, so it's going to be 4-ply yarn, or fingering weight, and I will play around with mixing this with something else in a future pair of socks, probably, or 2 pairs of socks. I don't know. I really don't know. I don't plan projects when I buy yarn. I just buy yarn, and then I look at projects I want, and I go, can I make any of the yarn that I bought randomly fit this project that I've now found that I like? I don't even look at the yarn and go, what would this make? What would be a good project for this yarn? I don't even do that. That would be sensible. No. I just buy lots of yarn, and then I go and find projects I want to make, and then I try desperately to make the two match. It's just how I roll. So this is another yarn. This one is from Natural Bond Dyers again, because Claire on the store had this gorgeous little crochet shawl, and I was like, oh, I really like that, I want. She said, oh, it's made from this one. I then realised after I bought it, and I was chatting to them, that it was a slightly different batch number, so it's slightly different to the one that she got, but it is still really, really nice. This one is called Red Admiral. It's in their high twist, so it's BFL and nylon, sock yarn. 100 grams, 405 yards, and it's called Red Admiral, and you can kind of see some of the colours from the Red Admiral butterfly if you don't know it, but I don't think it's entirely pulled from the Red Admiral. I think it's probably more that it's named because of that lovely red and brown content, but there's other colours in a Red Admiral that you would expect to see, like yellows and blues and stuff. But it is a really nice combo of colours, and it's sort of red, it's almost a fuchsia kind of a colour with a little bit of pink where it's faded and blended with some of the light faded browns, and then the dark brown colours, and then there's almost like a light beigey colour where there's very light browns. And it's a variegated, so similar to this is how it would knit up. It's a bit bolder than some of the other ones I've got. Some of the other ones I got for my jumper project, which I haven't touched, so I haven't got any of those out to show you today. They are slightly more muted. It was like a darker green and a lighter green, a light brown and a yellow, whereas this is red and brown. There's a very strong contrast there, so it'd be quite fun to knit this up. Again, no idea what I'm going to do with it. I might crochet that shawl, because I can just get hold of Claire and say, can I have the pattern please, or can you send me a link to the pattern. And yeah, so I just grabbed a bit of this, because you know it's Natural Bond Dyers, I couldn't not get something, could I? Distinct lack of orange, isn't there, guys? Well, I am not going to break that trend. This is called Autumn Leaves, and it might have been orange, but actually it's quite a reddy brown, so it's quite a Christmassy colour. Now, in the light in Bakewell was a bit of an issue. I really thought this would be a bit browner, a bit more orangey brown, and it really is quite a match to the red in this. If I get it up against a red part up against a red part, you can kind of see it's fairly close to this. It's quite a red colour, really. Red and green, so it's quite a Christmassy colour, but it says Autumn Leaves. It is very, very lovely yarn in terms of how it feels. It's squishy and soft. It's 75 superwash BFL 25 nylon. Freaking expensive. It was £16.50, so it's on the higher price point. It's from the Knitting Swede. They're based down in London, which might explain the price as well. But there's their website, theknittingswede.co.uk. But awesome pair of people to stand and chat to as well. Tanya and... Oh, what was his name? See, they had them on their t-shirt. So it's Tanya with a J, because she's Swedish. That's where the Knitting Swede comes from. And then, you see, I want to say Lindsay for him. But it feels like that's maybe not right. I mean, you can get guys that are called Lindsay. But I don't think it's right. Sorry, dude. But it was quite funny. She was telling me that in the shows where they are, that they've gone to more locally down in London, there's this group of ladies that love to just come along and hit on him. And I thought, well, blokes at a yarn show is fairly novel, so it might just be that. And then afterwards, I walked away and I thought, oh gosh, you know, that's a bit of a diss, really, isn't it, to say that? It's like, it's not that you're not attractive, good sir. You're maybe not my type, the older gentleman, but still, not unattractive. Just digging myself into a deeper hole, really, here, aren't I? I should just shut up. But, yeah, so I'm kind of interested. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with this one. This is one that's maybe going to sit in the stash for a while. And I was a little bit disappointed now I've got home and looked at it again with the colours. They're not quite what I thought they were going to be. I thought it was going to be, like it said, autumn leaves, so I didn't query the colours and sort of go and check them in more daylight. Because there was a patch in the hall where we were that had these massive windows with the light coming in. So I like the fibres and stuff I showed you, the orange fibre, you had to take it over to the window and look at it because it looked yellow. The red looked orange, the orange looked yellow, the yellow looked really bright yellow in the lighting there because it was under electronic lights. You had to go and take it over to the window and then come back and choose which colour you wanted. I did that a few times. So the vendors were great, they let you do that. But I wish I'd kind of done it with this because I don't think this is the colourway I would have chosen. And for that price, a bit of a disappointment one. But the yarn itself is really, really nice. So I'm not saying anything against the Knitting Swede. Just my lack of rigour when checking the colourway. And a bit of a disappointment about the colours being an issue in the venue. Yeah, and I don't know that I'll be able to do anything about that really, but since everyone's like, yeah, go take it to the window, it's fine. You just have to do that. So next, we have a gorgeous set of blue yarns. Still no orange, guys. What's happening? Don't worry, don't worry. There is orange to come. So these are from Coastal Colours. They call themselves hand-dyed luxury knitting yarns. It's Graham and Lindsay. Both were on the stall. Again, both awesome to just stand and chat to and talk about how they dye their yarns and where they dye their yarns and what they get up to and how they then go and buy dyed. They buy their dye from this stall that was in the room across the way. And then he goes and buys some dyed fleece from her. And it's like, we dye our own, but still, this one's so lovely and I want to get hers. Which is just that kind of typical craft community thing. It's like, we just love buying things from each other. So these are superwash merino 80% with 20% bamboo. Oh, so squishy, lovely and soft. 400 metres for 400 grams of 4-ply. Now I should have a card from them because you can't really see their details on the ball band very well. There we go. So there's a few more bits and pieces I got from these guys actually, and then when I went back on Sunday, I got another one. Because their yarn is really, really lush. It's a really gorgeous feeling yarn. Like the Knitting Swede one, it just feels really nice. So it's kind of, you don't mind paying those few pounds extra when it just feels so lovely. Which isn't to say the others don't feel nice. They're certainly nice yarns, but there's a difference between, oh, that's a good yarn, that's a nice yarn, I'm just checking them to make sure I'm not doing her a disservice, and, ooh, ooh, that's a lovely yarn. And these ones make you go, oh. At least they make me do that. Maybe that's just me, but I know it's not. I know it's not. I'm thinking of Kim and Sam right now as I say that. I'm thinking of those two cooing over yarn. But yeah, so these guys are based in Lancashire. They don't have a website. They mainly sell at shows, but he said they do mail order over things like email and stuff. But I don't know if they have anywhere there where you can see their colourways, because they have this gorgeous setup. They had 2 shelves. And it was really, really well thought out actually, because on the top shelf was like your blues and your purples and things like that, and then the bottom shelf was your yellows and greens and your browns. And they were saying each skein is individually dyed. So obviously these 2 match in terms of they're a similar recipe, or it might have been the same dye pot or what have you, but they would have been individually dunked in, hand dyed. But they will go together, and I can always do the whole, you know, alternating rows and stuff if I do them together in something. Or I can just enjoy the fact that it's hand dyed and there's variegation in that, and what that means. What that means. Yeah, but I mean, I just can't get enough of this. It reminds me very much of the Manos del Uruguay colourway that I got before, and I think I really have something for that kind of blue and white mix. Now, there's not a lot of white in here, it's mostly darker blues and lighter blues. But I grabbed 2 skeins. I was like, I'm going to grab 2 skeins and I'm going to make sort of a full 2 skein object out of this. So like a shawl, because you know, I do this, I buy a single skein or something, and almost everything I've got is a single skein of. Which means I'm then having to combine random stuff together, like I'm doing for my vintage pattern jumpers. Or I'm clever enough to buy it thinking I'm going to stripe it with another brighter colour or something, or I just start mixing and matching and making shit up. Excuse me. I'm marking myself as non-explicit. So I hope that doesn't count. I hope that's not too much. I do apologise. If it is, and I get told off, then I will make more of an effort in future. It's all those podcasts by JB I've been watching. It's not, it's all me. Yeah, no, I don't need to say anything about that one again. So, bottom of the bag. Yay! It's the orange yarns! And this is the first bag of 2. So these are both also from Coastal Colourway. They're slightly different to each other, so I'll show you them separately. This one is pure superwash BFL. Again, it's 4-ply. And the colours on here, it says, are Primrose... Oh crikey, I can't read that. Primrose, Meadow, Orchid. So either... No. Primrose and Meadow Orchid. Because the M's capitalised and the O isn't. Maybe. Who knows? But it's this kind of burnt red and almost slightly peachy orange. Where I thought, ooh, that's fun. And you can kind of see... Oh, let it focus, James. Come on, there we go. Yeah, there's a peachiness to it there. Sorry, that stitch when I climb in. Through round to the oranges and the darker reds, it's really dark red and stuff, and then the paler oranges and stuff for the peachiness and what have you. And I just thought, well, that's a really interesting kind of something, like, again, those autumnal colours that I love, slightly flame colours that I really like, so that'll be really interesting. And this would be a really good contender to be matched with the grey, so you can kind of, you get that variegation happening but matched in along with the grey for some kind of lovely pattern, whether it be like little coloured dots, colour work, or just stripes or something. And then, having gone to Countess of Blazes open day and being persuaded by her bargain bin having discontinued ends bin kind of thing, having some orange, red and orange tweed yarns, and then saw this and was like, right, okay, well, I orange tweed, I have to buy it. And somebody actually said that on my Instagram, I think, when they saw this hanging out at the corner of a photo of a haul, or possibly from the the anti-blaze one, I don't remember. Anyway, they went, oh, orange tweed, do I have to buy orange tweed? And I saw this and was like, yes, I do. So I haven't even worked out if I like tweed yarns, and I'm already buying orange tweed. Silly boy. So this is 85 Superwash BFL again, with 15% Donegal nips in it. And yeah, so this is just Madden or Madder orange. Obviously in a semi-solid colourway with all the neps in there, and that'll make a lovely something in the future. Who knows? I don't care. I do think though at some point I'm going to have to get out after I put all this in my stash. And I've got my 3 shows from this year where I've just gone yarn crazy because I didn't really have a stash before. And I was like, I've got some money this year. I'm going to go and buy myself a load of yarn. Although I didn't realise I didn't quite have as much money as I thought I did. So I did go overdrawn for a little while. So I quickly paid in a cheque. But now I think I could just make a sea of yarn even bigger than the one I took for my podcast channel photo. Oh, I forgot that I'd got some more of that. Yeah. So there's actually a little bit more fibre to show you guys, because this is my haul from the second day. And this is so much fun, so I have to get this out. But it's kind of a mixed bag. So I was chatting with this lovely lady. No, her name wasn't Jude, was it? I thought she said it was like Julie. Well, it says Jude Beckett on here, so I'm just going to go with Jude. So let's see, where's her info? There we go. So she's based out Stockport Way, the Wonder of Woolies. And she also was selling things like niddy noddies and bobbins that had been made by her neighbour, so hand carved and stuff. But she had kind of all these really funky, almost art yarns. Oh no, you see, that's good. I'm just gonna, I could go to sleep right now. No, James, come on, podcasting. See. Sit up, stay awake. Gosh, if I feel like this whilst I'm recording it, what can you guys feel like? You must all be dropping off as well. I'm sorry. Energy. I should have. This is why you guys drink coffee, isn't it? I just don't. I don't have a drink of water with me either. But I'm clearly a little bit spacey still today. I can tell on a podcast because it's quite energy intensive to sit and talk for this long. And so when I start to flag, I think, oh yeah, I'm not feeling great actually, and I am. I'm quite tired. I'm not going to yawn. So she works from the raw fleece rather, and she does all kinds of things. She dyes, she spins, and then she makes these crazy, really interesting fibres. And she was showing me all the stuff that she makes, and I couldn't do it justice to describe. So you'll have to go and check out wonderofwoolies.co.uk. But the fibre that I got, and she even gave me a discount because she was lovely. She was talking to me about spinning and stuff and saying, yes, I spin. I'm a bloke spinning, so she gave me a little discount, bless her. I'm going to have to be a bit careful because it's a mixed bag kind of thing, so it's not like it's one big lump all held together. Ooh, see, I'm already dropping it. But there's these amazing kind of locks type thing. I don't know what most of it is. She did. She was trying to tell me, and it just didn't go in my head, did it? Clearly I had yarn fumes affecting me. It comes down here with this bright orange with, and I think this actually, I think she said it was madder orange or something, so it's probably the same orange as the tweed yarn, but it's obviously much stronger dye. Look at it, it's burning out the camera. But then there's also, she was saying it's trilobal, apparently. So it's very sparkly. No, I'm not always a sparkly person. Sparkly doesn't tend to draw me, but it's orange sparkly, so that's a good compromise. And she was telling me, showing me combinations of how to put it in with lots of other stuff, and how a little goes a long way, and how you have to mix it in with other stuff when you're spinning, because it won't spin on its own, it's too fine or what have you. And then there's some more kind of fibrey bits and pieces that are obviously different fibres. This one's quite soft, this one's a little coarser, this one feels a bit matted actually. She did say it was matted, in terms of, she said, yeah, it'll be a bit dense, you'll have to sit and, she was saying sort of a nice easy job is to sit and do all the teasing a part of the fibre. And when we were chatting, she was saying that's what the kids would have done. So the kids would have separated the fibres out, the women would have spun, and the men would have woven. Because we were talking about, excuse me, crinkle, 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 about the whole like men don't knit, men don't spin and weave and all of that. It's women's work, and how actually it's not that long ago that it was totally men's work. Actually, thank you very much. You know, I mean, it's that whole thing of blue used to be a girl's colour and pink used to be a man's colour. And then they changed their minds, and now everyone's like, oh, pink is a girl's colour. And you're like, not, I mean, maybe 100 years ago, so maybe you have to go back a bit for the switch to have happened, because we've completely forgotten about it now. But, you know, it's not necessarily a girl's thing or a boy's thing. I'm going on a gender rant, woo woo. But, yes, gender, people, it's a social construct. It's entirely made up. Your sense of masculine and feminine is arbitrary. It's all in your head. Anyway, just moving on. The last of my yarns, so this one is from Coastal Colours again, in stringy bark, tan bark and oak, and I just thought it's quite fun. It's quite similar to the sock yarn I got from Rosie's Moments, in that it's got that yellow and then the browns going through it, but it's obviously sort of more greeny yellows and then greeny browns this time. It looks almost muddy, just quite interesting. It's quite a bit darker than I might normally go through, that kind of thing, so that's kind of interesting. This one was reduced a little bit, and it's just superwash merino, 100% superwash merino. So that's that. I do also have in here a little sparkle duck from Sparkle Duck. It's not actually a squeaky toy, but it's got a little hole, so if you squeeze it, it squeaks. And I got that just because I was chatting to the lovely lady at Sparkle Duck, who's awesome. And it was really weird, because I often ignored Sparkle Duck, and today was the first time I went and had a proper look. Because I thought they did sparkly yarns when I saw them at Woolfest. And I was like, oh, Sparkle Duck, sparkly yarns. So I kind of just didn't bother really going and have a proper look. And then I saw them again, and I was like, oh, I'll go and have a look at. She had some hurdy stuff. So the reason I originally went over was because I saw these lovely little hurdy things. And I went, ooh, do you have one in orange? So when I went back on Sunday, she'd found one in orange for me. So now I have... Come on camera. You can do it. Oh, I need to keep it in front of my face, don't I? No, I can't manage it. I'll put it back on the bag and then I'll get it focused on the bag. It's just a little tie-pin type thing. But I put it on my bag, where I have all my badges on my bag. I'll put it there. There we go. So I can't keep my hand still. Do apologise. Kind of rest it on there to stop it wobbling about so much. No, I've got the jitters. I noticed that a couple of times recently, actually. That, and I can't remember stuff. Oh dear. So I have my little... I'm not sure if it'll go through this t-shirt. Oh, yes, apparently it will. Just careful, because I don't want to damage the t-shirt. There we go. Oh, I'm getting eye strain trying to look at it down there. But this will go and live on my bag. I put it on my bag at the show, and then I took it off to remember to bring it over and show you guys. But I got one in orange, and then I bought some other stuff as well, but I'm not going to show you that today. And the stuff I bought that wasn't from Sparkle Duck that I'm not going to show you today. Tease! But yeah, so now we have a little sparkle duck as well, which is quite exciting. So thank you very much, you guys. Where's my sparkle duck card to hold up to the cat? And oh, it's in the bag. It's in the bag. Where's the bag? It's in the bag. I knew I saw it. It's because it's in the bag. Heather at Sparkle Duck. There we go. Heather. That's the name I couldn't remember. SparkleDuck.co.uk. And they don't just do sparkly yarns, guys. Sparkle Duck, as a name apparently, came across just because she needed an online name for something, and it kind of grew from there and stuck, which is a bit like me and DancingGeek. So if you want to know where DancingGeek came from, I say, well, I'm a geek and I dance. That's how I came up with the name. But the reason I use it is because I used it in one place, so then I used it in another, so then I used it in another, and then it kind of just became my online handle. So yeah, Sparkle Duck is Heather's online handle. And there's the other side. I used to be able to do a really good duck impression. I grew up next to ducks going off all the time. It sounds very countryside-y. It's not. It was a dike running through the city, and it just had ducks live on it. That ran past our house growing up. So, is there anything I'm missing? The wonderful herdy.co.uk. I've already shouted them out several times today. Oh, yes, I have to show you that. Rosie's Moments and her Etsy shop. The Happy Spinner. Ah, yeah, now you see, I didn't actually really buy anything from these guys, but these guys do an event. So this is Diane's card. And then there's also the Arkwright Spinners, or Spinsters even. Now these guys had a little store where they were selling some bits and pieces, and I was looking at the spinning wheel that Jane was selling. It was like, oh, but I didn't quite get that carried away. But these guys do all kinds of spinning stuff. So Diane was demonstrating a great wheel, or a walking wheel, is it? Where you actually have the spindle sticking out the side, whizzing round, and you kind of, the spinning either twists the fibre or winds it on, or twists it according to what you do. So it was like the step between spindles and spinning wheel as we know them now. And then Jane was showing some spinning wheels that she had that she wanted to sell. But they are the Arkwright Spinsters, or they're both part of the Arkwright Spinsters. And murmuringwheel.co.uk was also on the store. So I'm not entirely sure who's who, because I haven't gone and checked everyone out again since to check it out. But the Arkwright Spinsters is really interesting. They're at Sir Richard Arkwright's Cromford Mill, the third Sunday of every month from 11 till 4. It's free of charge, and they will teach you for free. So there's no charge for tuition as well. Everyone welcome. Just pop in and have a look. So the details for them, Arkwright Spinsters, arkwrightspinsters.co.uk, and their phone number there. And it's the third Sunday of every month. So on the back of the flyer is the information. So the next one is the 16th of November, because it was the 19th of October, which has just been. And it was like, well, I'm actually coming to Bakewell for a second day. Which meant Jane was not at Bakewell on the Sunday because she was there, and Diane was at Bakewell. But very, very cool. Yeah, it's cool, Diane's stuff. I'm just having a quick read of it. She uses an authentic antique walking wheel from 1870. And she'll do demonstrations and film work and stuff, and she did have sort of a bit of a... It wasn't a full-on outfit for like historic, but it looked old style, like an old-style frock or something over the top. So that was quite fun. And she does commissions and tuitions and all that kind of thing. Pet combing spun into knitting yarn. Oh, yeah, I want to do that as well. I don't think I will, but maybe if I mix it with something like, something really long haired, so I don't have to struggle with it so much. Yeah, so there's those guys that I wanted to give a shout out to. Oh, and then there was a lovely lady who tried to help me be reunited with my project bag that I lost, again I'll tell you about. And she makes something called Yarn Maker magazine, which is released every 2 to 3 months. But you can also order it directly, www.yarnmaker.co.uk. Now I didn't actually pick up a copy in the end. I don't tend to do magazines, but she was a lovely lady and she did sort of ask after me and what have you, so I thought, well, it doesn't hurt to spread the love and let her and tell you guys about it, because I'd never heard of it before and you might actually be interested. So it says a magazine for hand spinners and everyone interested in fibres and yarns. I don't want to read it out to you, so I'm just going to do this. If you're interested, pause the video and read it. There we go. Okay. I'm lazy. No, I'm not lazy. Knitting Swede, so there's the Knitting Swedes info again, just to make it a bit easier for you to see. Oh, excuse me, and she does say, focusing on high quality yarn sourced from ethical British suppliers and breeds indigenous to the British Isles and Islands. So although she's Swedish and it's called the Knitting Swede, she's very much about British yarns. And here again is the info for A Little Bit Sheepish. What I didn't tell you about A Little Bit Sheepish, actually, I meant to say when I was saying it, I said that it was You Can't Take the Sky From Me, that colourway. But that was a theme. All of her different colours had film reference titles. So I played a game with them. I was trying to work out what film it was. And some of them I definitely got. Some of them were really, really straightforward. So Why So Serious, for example. That colourway, I could work it out. And there were one or two where I was a bit more impressed with myself for getting them, but I can't quite remember them. But one I was absolutely gutted about because it said the forests will fall. It was just called Forests Will Fall. And it wasn't enough for me to click. So when I said, so what's this one then? She was like, oh, she said she couldn't remember if it was Hobbit or Lord of the Rings. But I was like, I didn't get a Tolkien film reference? No! But Forests Will Fall, that's very short. Like, it's probably something that Saruman says in Lord of the Rings. But it might not be. It could have been something that one of the elves said, one of the woodland elves said in Lothlorien, or... Don't know. But I was gutted that I didn't get it anyway. And... Oh yes, so this is another spinning event that Diane and Jane do under the title The Black Sheep Spinners. So this is kind of a spinners, weavers, knitters, crocheters, fibre crafters kind of big everyone's invited event, the third Wednesday of every month, 1 till 4, at Blaze Farm in Cheshire. You can, the first one, I love this, the first one is free. Dealers, they're dealers in spinning. And then it's £3 per session after, or £5 for a family, £1 for refreshments, all ages welcome, you can come along and learn. So it's slightly different, but it says in black, 4th of July, the Wool Experience! And then there's all the dates. So the 19th of November is the next one, the third Wednesday. That's over in Cheshire. I'm not sure if I'll get all the way over to Cheshire for that one. But that information is all under the Black Sheep Spinners.weebly.com. And it's Diane and Jane there again, organising that. But it was another event. It was great to find out about all these events that are happening more locally. Because obviously if it's a little more sort of regional event, people are more likely to talk about regional things going on and have regional products there. So the Derbyshire fleece and the Derbyshire farmed fibre and everything. Yeah, I know what I mean. So like the sheep that are from Derbyshire, the long-wooled, whatever it was, I can't remember. And then Ruffley Farms, who actually are in Derbyshire, and the Amber Valley alpacas, who are in Derbyshire. It's all this kind of like really local produce, which is kind of cool. And that, he said, just checking, is all of my stash. Although I'm missing a card because there's a story I have to tell you guys. There we go. Who don't follow me on Instagram and who didn't see one of the many messages that I put up. Sad times, guys. Sad news. The amazing Lucy from Purple Puddle Bags. She does not yet have an Etsy shop or anything, but she is on Instagram and Ravelry as Lucy Needs to Knit. So if I show you her card, she had a little stall in the corner kind of thing, with loads of really lovely handmade project bags. And I was like, oh my gosh, they're amazing. And I totally fell in love with one that she had that was white, with little white rabbits and white squirrels, and then autumnal leaves, all browns, yellows, and what have you on it. And so I was chatting away with her and what have you, and she said, no, I want to launch an online shop, you know, it even says on a card, maybe an online shop one day. Yes, Lucy, get an online shop, okay, I'm telling you, you have to, because I want to shout you out, and I know the guys will want to see your stuff, because I just done exactly the same thing with bagsbyterry.etsy.com, and had a load of people going, oh my god, thank you so much for showing us this, these are gorgeous, and happy Instagram shots of people getting their bags. And is Terry just about to do or has just done an update? But if you guys, if you're not following Terry already, go over there. The update that's coming is phenomenal. It's the What Knitters Say bags, which is brilliant. And then there's this gorgeous kind of almost like Halloween-y one, but it's not, it's just spooky, I think. It's like got a moon and a crow, and I can't quite remember, but I loved it. I want it, you know, I want them all, basically. So Lucy has promised me that she will send me over a bag to review, because I don't have one of hers, because although I did go and buy one of her bags, it didn't make it home. And I messaged everybody I could get hold of on that Saturday night and was nearly in tears over it. I was like, no, it was so lovely. And then I went back again on the Sunday, and bless them, Carol who organises the event, all the stall holders, and even complete strangers who saw my name badge were coming up and going, did you manage to find your bag? Which was so lovely. Thank you so much. And the answer was just always no. So after Lucy, I went to 3 places where I set down my bags to just chill out. One was the spinning stall, and I tried out on spinning wheels. One was the Coastal Colours stall, when I was ferreting through all of her yarns, because they're all individual colours, you had to really get in there and pull them out and what have you. And one was right at the end when I sat to have a break and a chat, and I chatted with some old ladies, and I had some sandwiches and stuff before I went home. And at some point during that, somebody apparently decided that one of those bags would be theirs. Could have been an accident, because they were all in brown paper bags. Everyone was using brown paper bags. Some of them had some branding on the side, but that was all. They all looked the same, and that's why I didn't notice as well till I really kind of, when I went going home, I was like, I feel like I'm missing something, and I was like, well, I can't be. I know I picked everything up. No. But yeah, so Lucy is very kindly saying that she's going to send me one to review when she's opening her Etsy shop, so I'm very excited about that. But yeah, I didn't find it, it's gone. I've had a couple of people say, and I kind of am partly thinking it's possible, that it could have been a genuine mistake, like I say, because there were so many brown paper bags floating around, and someone might have taken it home and not quite realised, and then when they realise, go, oh, I should try and get hold and send this back somehow, and get in touch with maybe the organisers, what have you, or the stall holder if they can know who it is, because it might have a card on the bags and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, maybe, but, you know, I've not heard anything yet, and everybody knows that that's what I lost and which bag I lost, so never mind. So I was pretty gutted on Saturday and still quite sad on Sunday, and I'm not quite crying over it anymore, but I am still pretty gutted because, you know, it was such a lovely, the idea that someone might have stolen it is really quite upsetting, actually. And I wouldn't really have thought that possible. But one of the stall holders I was chatting to said that, yeah, she'd had stuff stolen on both days and at other events from her stall. People just kind of, you know, you pick stuff up to look at it, you put it back, or you buy it, or the third option is you walk off with it, apparently. And I can just imagine as a stall holder how difficult it is to kind of keep track of everything when you've got people mulling around your stall and it's busy. This is starting to irritate me and scratch my chest, so I'm going to take it out. But I was absolutely shocked that you know, you would go to a craft fair in order to steal. I mean, sure, they had to pay the entrance fee, but £3 or £5, and then, you know, some kind of all-you-can-eat buffet. And she's, you know, the lady was saying, yeah, she had somebody that she was thinking, you're not really interested, why are you asking me this? And then she realised that something had gone missing. You know, this person had obviously just been asking questions as a decoy, and all that kind of thing. You're like, oh my god, that sucks. That sucks. So yeah, somebody might actually have stolen it. And they could have got away with a lot more. That was one of the cheaper things that I bought. It wasn't cheap, but it was one of the cheaper things that I bought, because yarn ain't cheap, guys. But still. So that is all of my stash and my stories from Bakewell. Right. I'm going to have a pause, because I am quite tired. So I'm going to stop now for a bit, and I will come back and do some book stuff, all the community stuff that I want to do, all my shout-outs and what have you, and some podcast news towards the end. However, guys, you have to stay and watch the rest of it, because there is going to be the apology, and it is worth hanging around for, I promise you. Right. See you in no time at all. Oh, okay. So, the next section, as it were, would be questions. I've not really had any questions, but I posted on Instagram a picture of a lovely present that I got from Jozebedee when we met up in Bakewell, which I haven't talked about at all, have I? Oh my gosh, yes! I need to do a shout out to Dominique and Kate and Joe and Zena and the two ladies from Sheffield who I didn't really get a chance to chat to, but they were there as well. Because we did have a little meet up, and then there's Claire from Natural Bond Eyes who came and said hi when we were stood in the doorway, and then Debbie I thought was going to come and find us, but she didn't, so I saw her separately. But she also said she was going to come along to the meetup. So thank you guys for coming along and not leaving me just stood there on my own. In fact, when I got to Bakewell, I got there a little bit late because there were road closures coming up through. I came up through the countryside roads because I was like, oh, it's a nice little route I know, and it's a bit nicer than driving on the main roads that like go through the villages and 30 mile an hour and what have you. But there was a road closure. And there wasn't really an obvious diversion sign. I think I ended up... I think I then did see one, but I didn't clock that it was a diversion for this because I'd had to turn around to see it, so I thought it must be something else, and I drove off another way and then thought, oh, later, kind of went, oh. That was probably the diversion that I was supposed to take. But it didn't matter. I just went off through some tiny little villages and along a racetrack for some bicycles. So I was like... trying to overtake some bicyclists, but I couldn't because of parked cars, and then letting them overtake me again so I can get past them. Oh, dear me. But it was all good fun because it was in the countryside, so it was lovely, and trees everywhere. So I was very happy, surrounded by autumnal trees. How could I not be happy? But I got there therefore about 1:45. So I kind of walked in the door and Dominique stopped me and was like, oh, hi, James. So I was like, oh, hi, la, 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 la. And I had this horrible thing of, I can't remember where I know you from and I can't remember your name. So I did have to fess up eventually and just say, look, I'm really sorry, I've forgotten your name. And then, no, wait. What am I forgetting? Oh, no, that is right, because it was Dominique that stopped me first. And then she went off to go and sit with Kate Al. Dominique and Kate I met at the Countess of Blaze open day. And as Dominique was talking to me, then Joe came up and said hi, and so at which point Dominique kind of went off as well. And so then I was chatting to Joe for a bit, and then Claire came and said hi, and then we moved over to a little space out of the way because I was like, we're stood in the way, I hate this, I hate being stood in the way. So we went and found a corner right by the door, well, Joe found the corner, thank you Joe, good spot, where we could stand, and then Claire went back to her stand, and then Zena came along, and sorry, whenever I say Zena's name, I hear Zena's war cry from the Xena the Warrior Princess in my head. And if it wasn't for the fact that I would probably blow the microphone on the camera and burst your eardrums, I would do it for you now. But it is very loud, very squeaky. But it's so funny. Maybe I'll have to do it as an added extra or something at the end. We'll see, we'll see. Xena, by the way, her name is not spelled with an X, it's spelled with a Z. Just so we're clear. A Z if you're American. And I don't know why I felt the need to say that. Yeah, and then we went through into the bar area and stuff and hung out and had a really great time. But anyway, Joe sort of very bashfully gave me a present, kind of worried that it would be creepy, and I'm like, no. If I have not made this clear so far, and admittedly I did rant about this in episode 8, but I uploaded it like midnight the night before Bakewell, so Joe wasn't really going to have watched it by then. I very much enjoy receiving gifts, and it's not creepy at all for you guys to send me messages or to send me project bags you've made. Thank you very much, guys. Oh my god. And that's just the ones I brought over. I love you guys so much. So then she pulled out of her bag, a bit like this, slow reveal. She went, I don't know if you'd be interested, but... Ta-da! And I'm like, hell yes. What is it? And I'm like, oh, it's Fat Feet and Cozy Toes by Anna Tillman. And it's basically a sock knitting book. It's got 25 patterns. And not all of the patterns do all of the sizes. Oh wow, we've got a grey squirrel in our garden who is eating the sunflower seeds. That's so cool! He's just taken a whole sunflower head off the plant. And that is so awesome. I don't think, he might stay still if I move. Let's just see if I can catch him on camera. How cool is that, guys? Look at it. Chomping away on a sunflower head. That would explain as well why I found a whole pile of sunflower seeds the other day, just sat in a little pile on the floor. And it's because the squirrel there has come over and eaten them all. Now he's not a red squirrel, he's a grey squirrel, which isn't quite as good because the red squirrel's native, the grey squirrels are an imported breed that has been taking over, and the red squirrels only really exist in either sanctuaries or up in the wilds of Scotland. But how cool is that? Anyway, I kind of feel like I could just spend another hour just sitting here watching him eat sunflower seeds, and that's not really what this is about. Well, to be fair, this podcast is whatever I choose to make it about, but Excuse me. Boop. Yeah, I'm not quite as pretty as a squirrel, am I? Sorry. So, where was I? Book review! So, obviously I haven't knitted anything from this. I only got it on Saturday, and I haven't knitted even on the projects that I already have started, so... But I have had a look through, and there's loads of pretty pictures to show you guys. So first of all, the cover. Yes, the flippers, and the beak and the tail of the penguin stick out of the socks. A little impractical, but kind of cute. So there are 25 designs, it says in the book. And there they are. And you can see some of the pictures of them on there. And I'll go and just quickly have a flick through. It does talk about doing children's and adult sizes, which is pretty good. I guess I would come out as an adult medium, which sounds about right. But not an adult small! Yay! I do have small feet, but they're not that small apparently. Oh no, wait. It tells me US women's sizes, but not US men's sizes. Oh! Oh, it's suggesting that the UK men's and the US men's are on the same level, so I'm probably about the same. If I'm an 8.5 UK, maybe I'm an 8.5 in American. Hey ho diddly-o. I don't know, don't care. Move on, James. So, it starts off with kind of your basic blurble bits, so the anatomy of a sock, how to do a Kitchener stitch, how to do finishing techniques, how to sew up with mattress stitch, batch stitch, how to choose a yarn or substitute a yarn, how to work from a chart, that kind of thing. What is quite fun, I'm just going to check, yes I can show you this page because it doesn't have any of the pattern on it. You get a picture of the socks, and then on this side you get, and this is what I think is quite fun, you kind of get what you need to have. So in this case it's 4 different coloured wools. And then it gives you more information, like how many balls, etc, and which yarn they used in particular and so on. But that's kind of cool. It also shows you which sizes you get. So for these penguin ones it only goes down to a child's extra large, which presumably is because any smaller than that and you can't really get the whole penguin on it or something, it's not worth it. But it goes all the way from adult small to adult extra large. And so there's things like charts to work from and written instructions. Now I imagine I think the colour work and stuff is only charted. It doesn't look like it has written instructions as well, but that's fine. So, you know, that just means if you want to learn colour work, play with colour work, or you can do colour work, then you can do the colour work socks in here. It's no biggie. There's some that aren't. Here is one where you knit some very standard socks, but then you, make this little kind of thing to pop along and sew on the sock, which is kind of cute. Again, not necessarily very practical, but hey ho. Make socks out of crazy yarn. More fun colourworks. That's piggies, by the way. They wrap round the feet and the ankles, but the way that it's designed means that if you put your feet together, they also match up. I think that's very smart, well done. Some how to do toes and what have you. The squirrel's now running away. Toes and knee-high socks in there. Some lacy thigh highs. Looks like knitted tights really, doesn't it? Especially the way she's pulling them on. Some zigzags which look very familiar to a pattern that I've seen on Rav already, but you know, it's a zigzag. It's fairly straightforward, but you know, at least this way you've got a pattern. Now these ones when I spotted them in a flick through, I did think were absolutely adorable. They're called Sock Buddies. and you make the socks with a little pouch in them, and then you knit up a little bear, and you put a bear in each of the pockets on the socks. Oh my god, that's so cute! I have no idea who they think is going to manage to keep a bear in a pocket on a sock, because quite frankly, I imagine within about 5 minutes of a kiddie running around, the bears will have gone flying and got lost. So you'd basically have to sew them in. Or, and here's the cunning idea, you use the pockets on the... oh, it only actually takes you up to children extra large. They should do this in the pattern in an adult size as well, because they kind of think, well, it could be a really handy place for stashing cigarette lighter, or a chocolate bar, or you know, a pen, just say you need one. It's like, oh, actually I have an emergency one. Ta-da! But I just thought that was such an just adorable, if not crazy idea. But yes, and it includes instructions for making the teddy bears. More cuteness. The ladybird socks that are on that front picture there. These are obviously designed to be worn by ickle babbies. So you can see ickle babbies wearing ladybird socks. There's some cabling. Lots of cabling there with some orange. Good choice, good choice. There's some froofy frilly socks. Just give you a second actually to look at that. Look at that. It said in, because I had a quick look, it said these effective frills are worked separately and then knitted into your socks as you work the pattern. So I'm not quite sure how that works. I haven't looked enough to see. But yeah, some crazy floofy lines. Now, I like the idea of these socks because they're a bit like fingerless mitts in their construction, but they've labelled them as fab for flip-flops. Now, that, as a sock design, kind of cool. Wearing them with flip-flops? No. If it's so cold you need to wear socks, then you need to wear shoes. I don't know if that's just a British thing, but socks with flip-flops. But the idea is cool. I'd like to just have them as normal socks, like toe socks. I like toe socks anyway, so they're just like toe socks. Now these I do like, and I mentioned earlier, didn't I, about these two maybe being a good match. I mean, I haven't decided on anything, but the reddy orange one with a grey, and then this kind of pattern is the kind of thing I've seen on Rav and I really like, and it's where you have a plain master colour and then some kind of gradiented colour work. And this one, it's doing lots of little dots, and I really like the look of that. So that may well be one that I can do in the future. And it looks like, yeah, they are reversible. So if I show you this little pic here, you can see somewhere buried under my arm is my phone. Excuse me. Yes, you can go away. You're an 08 number. Not interested. Sorry, yes, so you can see, just make sure you can actually see, there we go, yeah, that it's reversible there, so you've got both sides showing where they folded the top of the sock over, and I think that's really cool, so I quite like that idea. I don't know if that means it's sort of double knit or something, or done in rib to get that effect, but because it looks like it's knit on both sides, doesn't it? But hey, I will have to check them out, but I think those socks look really, really cool. So, as opposed to maybe the frilly ones, or the ones with penguins, or the ones with teddy bears in the side, aren't necessarily ones that I'm going to make for me. I could potentially make them for some of my friends' kids, but let's be honest, who do I knit for? Now, these are quite fun. Thick, felted, sort of sculpted shoes as jester slippers. Oh my gosh, with bells on. Oh yes, with bells on. Fantastic. Now these are somewhat interesting. They're slouch socks is what they're called, and they look like they're fairly sort of maybe long socks that have just been dropped down, but it actually says the ruched effect is knitted in, so don't try to pull them up. I don't know what would happen if you did. Would it rip? I don't suppose it would rip. I'm quite intrigued how she's knitted in that ruched effect. I imagine it's something like she sort of goes back down and picks up a couple of stitches, say a couple of rows below, and then knits through both of them at the same time or something like that. And that's just my guess from the picture, so I'm not giving anything away. Oh, some nice snuggly cable ones. These ones aren't too crazy. I could potentially do those. Oh, okay, these are ridiculously cute. Felted booties, look at those! Oh! And just the other picture as well, it's like tiny, tiny, tiny felted booties! So cute! Oh, can you do a mama size version as well then? Oh no. 0 to 3, 3 to 6, 6 to 12 months. Well, okay. Either the feet really do grow that much, and to be fair they might, but that kind of looks like a dwarf and a giant's shoes next to each other, doesn't it? But I don't know, maybe from a newborn would have like tiny feet, and then like a year old is going to have, I don't know, maybe that is right. Maybe it's just the smallest and the largest put side by side. Ah, no. Here we go. It's because the pink ones are the felted slipper socks. See? So the pink ones are the adult size. That makes so much more sense. I've got a kitty looking at me. Do you want in? Do you? Hmm? That's cat language for hello, by the way. A little nod of the head. Hmm? Do you want in? Yeah, he wants in. Hmm. Go on. Go find something else to do. Right, now this section is called Well-Heeled Wonders. Who knows, right? No. Tassels on socks? No. Just no. You ran out of ideas, didn't you? Beading on socks. Now that could be interesting if you're into that kind of thing. Not for me though. Now this is interesting. Cable cuffs. So a shout out to Katie, because these would go very well with the cowl, wouldn't they? That's nice. I don't know if you can see, if I bring it in a bit closer, there you go. You can really see quite clearly the cuff is cabled like that. Ooh, spiral rib pattern. I'm not a fan of the colourway, but I quite like the texturing. Looks like quite a solid texturing on those. Footlets. Footlets, yes, fine. So they're trainer socks. You don't need to put frigging pom-poms on the back of trainer socks, people. They're just trainer socks. It's still useful. I mean, admittedly, you could just work it out by just not knitting any further. But, you know, getting the feeling like she ran out of ideas a while back. Fair Isle striping. Okay. Fair Isle striping. Do some stripes. Yeah. There we go. Just add some stripes in. Using Fair Isle. Nothing groundbreaking there. Lovely lace. Oh, well, now we go. You see, now this is more like an actual sock pattern. There you go. There's actually something to it there. That's a bit better. I should save this one for later in the book to try and cover the fact that she ran out of ideas. And then, there we go, that's a bit better. Some proper Fair Isling of the socks. There you see, that's a bit more worthwhile. That's quite fun. And yes, exactly, all the floats would be really nice to cushion on the feet. So yeah, that's quite a nice idea. It comes with a little chart for doing that Fair Isle. And then there's mix and match socks. And it kind of, this is just a little section that I'll read to you. Here are 4 socks that use different yarns and combine various elements from this section of the book. Each sock is unique, and given here are the elements used in making them. So the idea here is sort of how you can then play with the patterns that she's got in the book. So I'm not really showing you much because it's not that interesting in that sense, but it's kind of going, okay, so I've used this yarn instead, and then I did this kind of rib, this kind of cuff, this kind of heel, this kind of body of the foot, this kind of toe, maybe in a contrasting colour, da, 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 da. And then there's a your own design section as well. And so there's some different cast-ons you can use, different ribs you can use, different cuffs you can use, different heels you can use, choices when it comes to the foot of the sock, choices when it comes to the toes of the sock. So that's quite nice because you can, they all kind of include instructions and for different sizes as well. So if you've tried out one of these patterns and you go, yeah, this size really fits me, then you can use that same sizing to look at all the different options, which is quite clever. I like that. The sizing is quite important because that's one of the big things for me with socks, is getting them to frickin' fit. And then that's it, index, and we are finished. So that was a look through of all the pickies in Fab Feet and Cozy Toes. And if you saw stuff in there that you thought you might like, it's by Anna Tillman, published by Octopus Publishing, Octopus Books, and the price on the back of the book is $14.99, but I imagine you'll be able to find a deal or something online. So there we go, a little book review. Somebody asked, and I thought it'd be nice to go through anyway, so there we go. Heck, it's not like I don't need more content to fill this podcast, eh? So, community section. What's up, my posse? I should never do anything like that ever again. I am ashamed of myself for even pretending to do that. I apologise unreservedly to anybody that saw me do that. Right, so I'll start with the worst one because, well, it's not the worst one, it's just the saddest one. Because Karen from the Stashless podcast, her last podcast, she said that she had to say goodbye to one of her kitties, and it was so sad. There's a lovely gormless photo of them at the beginning of the podcast, which is hilarious. And there's a little collage of photos at the end. And so it's just a little message just to say a big shout out and love and hugs and kitty vibes to Karen. And horrible, horrible, horrible. So, yeah, that was that one. So feel free to go and send us some love, guys. On a really positive note, thank you very much to Helen and Josh, who have both given me shout-outs recently. Josh has finally got up to something like episode 3 of the podcast, and keeps saying things like he really likes having me on in the background when he's doing other things, and it's not a bad thing really, but methinks he doth protest too much. Shakespeare reference for you there, Josh. Because yeah, he does. There's going to be another quick pause because Roy's outside and so is the intruder cat, and they are facing off. I have to go and stalk some territory. So, cat successfully got rid of the intruder one, not mine. Rory is now back in with me for a bit because he doesn't like it. They were in a standoff, so I just went out and scared the other guy off rather than risk them getting into a fight, because Rory's now locked out, whereas over the summer he's been able to come in and go, so he could run back in the house if he needed to. So, yes, I was just laughing at Josh a little bit. And obviously much love to Helen, who is Orange Maid, or Sprite 966 for her podcast, Orange Maid on Ravelry. She's given me lots of love in her latest podcast, and it's so lovely to see you all set up in your new place, Helen, and fingers crossed for the future for you, because Helen's just had a redundancy notice come through for her, so not so great. For Josh, good luck in your mystery knit-along shawl, but I imagine you won't see this episode until after it's finished. Right, so there's two more people I really want to talk about. Now, one of them, I've had a subtle clue for them this entire episode, but I'm wondering whether or not they'll have noticed. The reason I say this is because I got a message from Cara Thompson. Hi Cara. Because when I did my big long list of podcast shout-outs, apparently I missed her off the list. So I apologise profusely, Cara. It probably means that I've missed a whole bunch of people off because I didn't have my podcast very well organised before. And in fact, a shout out to Claire at Student Knits, because when I was going through everything, I realised I wasn't subscribed to her. And I'm sure I subscribed to her originally because I've watched her podcast. So I'm not sure what that was about, unless... Did Claire originally have just on the website and now she's got them on YouTube? Anyway, I'm now subscribed so I can catch up on Claire's podcast, because I was chatting to her and she said, yeah, I'm tracking across the Sahara, did you not know? Like, it's in my podcast. And I'm like, oh, you know, called out for not having watched. It was like, I'll check, because I should have seen your podcast, and I should have. I don't know why, I can't remember why. But yeah, if they're not on YouTube, then it's much harder for me to remember to go through and check. So, you know, I'm still working the logistics out, but Claire is now on YouTube, so I should be able to go back and find out about her Sahara trek. But Cara, yes, I apologise, and I've been trying to think of some way to explain my apology, and I couldn't really work out what it was. And by this time, I hope you're laughing to yourself, Cara, and everyone else is wondering why I'm bringing my chest up to the camera. And that's because Cara made a suggestion as to how I could offer my apology, and I do in fact have the t-shirt for just such a thing. So, if you will, I'm going to offer a little moment in time dedicated to Cara and her podcast Knit All the Things on YouTube. And this is my love to you, Cara, and a dedication to you. And I hope that everybody enjoys it as much as I did making this.
Hello, welcome back to episode 3 of the Knit All the Things podcast. It's great to be talking to you again. My name's Cara. I will put my details here, but I am Cara B on Ravelry and Cara.Thompson on Instagram. So come and find me, drop me a message. Yeah. Here we are again. I am still very, very grateful for everything that everyone has been saying and liking and sharing, and as of recording I am at 97 subscribers on YouTube, and I just can't even believe that with 2 episodes.
So hopefully you didn't just sit there looking at my face, but in fact I did edit that in, and if I did, to Dave, and if I didn't, whoops. Now, the last person that I want to talk about and to is Maya. Now don't get too excited, because there are 2 Mayas that I know of and I've spoken to, so apologies, I should make it clearer. Show Mailin, podcasting Maya. I'm sorry, other Maya. Thank you for your messages to me on Ravelry, and I love chatting with you, but it wasn't you I wanted to talk to in this particular case. That was quite naughty. I'm so sorry. I feel like, you know, it's like, and the winner is, oh, you mean someone else with my name. Damn it! Not that me like talking about you as a prize. Oh God, just stop, James, just stop. Okay. Lin, who I have talked about a number of times on here because she is amazing. She's Swedish, so Lin is spelled with J's in it. Use the links below, it's easier. There's two things. Number one, she wasn't sure about what the different kinds of fibre prep were called in English. She got it right, but I figured I would tell you what I think the names are for various bits of fibre prep, given I've got a load of fibre sitting next to me here now. And if I'm wrong, you guys can tell me and then we'll all work it out together. But, so this, I would call fluff, basically. Or seconds, which is actually what it is, because it's the second sharing. So you've got the first lot off, which is all the nice long, best quality stuff, but you haven't quite got it all off, so you share even closer and you get seconds. I would call this kind of thing, where it's obviously a lump of fur that's come off altogether, snip, a lock. So lots of them would be locks, alpaca locks. I would also maybe call it just fluff or fibre, because it's not been really prepared anyway, it's just been shorn and then stuffed in a bag. So it's not really had anything done to it, so I'd kind of call it locks or fibre. Similarly, this stuff again I would call locks. Again, it's that kind of lumps of hair, if I can get the camera to refocus. There we go, lumps of hair, all twirled up and obviously kind of cut together. But this isn't because they're necessarily just being cut, it's because of how it grows on the sheep in those curly little locks. So they might get all tangled up together. As opposed to something like this, where the fibre looks kind of flatter and what have you. Now, I don't think this has been particularly processed either, because if I open it up there's locks and stuff inside it, and it's a bit matted, so I would call that a bit of a mess. Either way, both of these, what they would need is for me to sit down and to tease all of that fibre apart so I can get air into it and actually use it to spin with. So that's what I would have to do, so that's what I think of them as. You can correct me if I'm wrong. The one that Maya was particularly talking about and wasn't sure about was this kind of preparation, where it kind of is in, if I take it out of its band, excuse me a second, I'm trying to do this without ripping anything, there we go, where it kind of is in this sort of flat, sort of combed look. If I just tease it out a bit, so it seems to have come away into two pieces there, but that's fine. And that might be that it's been combed over a drum carder or on a blending board or something like that, and then it's kind of been peeled off, and then it's just almost rolled or folded up. And so it can often look like that at the side, or it's a bit like a sloppy Swiss roll or something. And this is a bat, B-A-T-T, I believe that's spelt. And you know, you can then sort of tear chunks off and do something with it or what have you, but it's a fairly basic preparation. It is combed, so it's not like it's a complete matted mess like some of the other one was. Well, it wasn't a complete matted mess, but it wasn't combed or anything, so it was slightly matted up. Combed just means the fibres are all going in the same direction, like if you comb your hair. Hello, Rory. Oh, he's come to sit with me. He's curled up alongside me, which is lovely. This again, I would say fibre and locks and stuff. It's the same kind of thing I showed you earlier. And as I mentioned when I was talking about this, I would call this a braid. Now this is literally a braid, as I mentioned, of 3 different things braided together, like you would do a little girl's pigtails or something. Or indeed, a grown man's pigtails, thank you very much. Check your gender privileging, James. But this, which I showed you earlier as well, I would also call a braid. And that's the kind where when you pull on the end, it undoes itself, knot by knot. So it's one long thing that's been curled up and fed through and curled up and fed through and curled up and fed through. And you can see that they look very similar, which is why I didn't even realise when I bought the other one that it wasn't actually one long thing, but it was 3 shorter things braided together. Because you can see there's a lot of similarity in how they look and how they're constructed. Yeah, so that's kind of the stuff that I know about with regards to Fibre. There are Rolags, which look like cigars, that I've shown from Deb at Fondant Fancy. She got me some of those. I didn't think to go and grab those when I was ferreting around. I thought, oh, I've got one of everything in my Fibre that I bought from Bakewell. No, I don't. My stash does not have Rolags in it today. But they're the sort of cigar-shaped ones. And I don't... just tops, I suppose just a top would be when it's combed, like the bat, but then, if I just pull off a chunk, this feels like sacrilege doing this, but then it's usually often curled up round on itself like that, and it kind of just sits like a little curled up thing, and that's often called a top. But it's basically the same idea, it's been combed and then rolled up. I don't really know what the difference between a bat and a top is in terms of what you would do with them or why they're prepared that way or anything else. But it often seems to be that it's just different stages at which you stop doing the fibre preparation. That's uneducated talk, but there we go. The second thing was Maya brought up the topic of highly sensitive people, HSP. Now this is something that during my time of really getting into all the kind of self-help books and self-discovery books and understanding yourself and who am I books and personality typing. Hello. Ooh. Sorry guys, but you know, kitty love comes first, right? In fact, I'm probably going to have to put in an edit here. See you in a bit. Okay, I've finished cuddling my cats now. And I was talking about highly sensitive people and they need to cuddle cats, quite frankly. Sometimes that's what you need to do. And there were a couple of things that I wrote as I was watching Maya's podcast. And I wanted to partly speak to Maya to kind of go, oh, I hear you, yes, you're not alone in this. And just partly to share Maya's ideas with people that maybe haven't watched her podcast yet. And if you haven't, then you totally should. It's definitely worth watching. And partly to talk about my own experience with the idea of highly sensitive people. So, a couple of things I wanted to say, well, a couple of things I noticed were, Maya said, they don't do what you do. Oh boy, yes. And this is something that I really feel is true just about people in general, not even necessarily just highly sensitive people, although it can be a real revelation when put in that context. But just remembering that you are you, and you are uniquely you, and whilst there is always similarities between people, and there are certain things that are common to all of us, and certain things that are common to very large subsets of us, and some things that are common to smaller subsets of us, we are all still uniquely us. Our own experiences, beliefs, thoughts, feelings, ideas, usness, being, soul, spirit, mind, thoughts, neuro-linguistic pathways, meaty, sacky, gooey brain of grey matter, whatever it is that you think it's made up of. We're all individuals, and that's part of what being alive and human is about. That's part of it. And it's the kind of thing that we don't tend to teach kids, which is really confusing, because actually that's one of those things that, you know, you kind of wish a lot more people understood. Excuse me, there may be another earthquake and or tail apocalypse. Oh no, not too bad. Royal's now decided he wants to come and play with the camera. So there was that. She actually said at the same time, there's nothing wrong with you. I'm getting emotional just remembering Maya say it. And there's two reasons for that. One, because when Maya says it, she speaks it from a real deep place of healing. And Maya, I am privileged to have witnessed that. And two, because I have had that exact same experience. Admittedly, mine was in therapy, but that moment where you kind of go, there's nothing wrong with me, and you believe it, and all of those voices and all of those times you felt put down and you've had people lash out at you, even if it's just because they're not in a good place, but it impacts, and when you're young it really impacts at a deep, deep, deep level. So that when, as an adult, you can sit there and say about yourself, there is nothing wrong with me, and know it, believe it, have that as something solid you can stand on in metaphysical terms, not literal ones. Although you wish you could make a plinth and saying there's nothing wrong with me and stand on it. But no, that foundation of yourself inside, which I lacked for decades, to be able to so that if somebody else has a go at you, it's like, that's okay, that's your stuff, because you know what, there's nothing wrong with me. In transactional analysis terminology, it would be, I'm okay. And in transactional analysis, they also talk about, you're okay. So there's then being able to do that with other people as well, even when they're not in a great place. Going, I'm okay, and you're okay, and working from that place. But, just the power of finding you belong, finding a book and you read it and you go, oh my God, somebody is talking about me in a way nobody ever has before. This person understands me, this person can describe me to myself in a way that I didn't even understand before. And it is such an amazing experience. Yes, Rory. I want to celebrate Maya having that, as I'm sure she will have again and may have had before, but sharing it with us now, I am celebrating that with her. But also encouraging everybody watching this to find what does that for you. And if you haven't found it yet, keep looking. Oh my God, there are so many different ways that this is put out there. There are so many books, there are so many YouTube videos, there are so many DVDs, there are so many ideas out there of people talking about this kind of thing. And you do have to wade through the utter trash that is obviously pseudo-quackery, and you do have to wade through the stuff that makes no sense to you or does not relate to you, because not everything will. But it is worth it, and the difference it can make is huge. This is turning into an It Gets Better video, and I don't mind that, because it's important to know that it does, and it's important to know that somewhere out there is somebody else that speaks your language, that can say the ideas that maybe 50 other people have said to you before, but it didn't really make sense, and then they say it and you go, oh, yes, that person gets it. And then once you've had it happen once, it happens again and 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 again, because once you've understood an idea once, other people remind you of it, other people's other ways of looking at it give you another perspective on something that now you can understand. I'm going to let Rory out a second, otherwise he's going to meow through the whole thing. Go on then. And my thinking was this, that one of my journeys through therapy has been, my therapist has talked about trying to get me somewhere, and not being able to describe it to me, and not being able to take me there, having to guide me to find my own way there. And I would describe that as that kind of experience, as being one of those moments, one of those things that you can't give to somebody. They can only find for themselves, which means you can find it for yourself, okay? You, right there. Samara and Kimberly and Jennifer and Claire and Sarah and Kim and Maya and Henry and Paul and Joseph and everyone else. You know I see you too. You can do it, yeah? So, what am I trying to say with this little rant of mine? Keep looking, it gets better, and it's worth it. Oh my god, it's worth it. And then you see someone else go through it and you connect so strongly with that person that you cry when you watch the video. As I know people have done with some of my earlier ones. But I will get back onto highly sensitive people specifically. Another thing that Maya talked about was looking after your own needs. Oh my god, again, 5 years of therapy, people, to try and work this out for me, and I'm still on this journey right now. How to look after myself. One thing to look after yourself financially: don't go to every single yarn show. You will spend all of your money. And I'm okay for money, really, so it's not actually a problem. But it's that idea of so recently we've started planning our meals out for the week, and I couldn't have done that a few years ago. In fact, my other half suggested it, and I was like, no, I can't do that, that's too rigid, I can't deal with that, I need the freedom to just eat whatever I want to eat at the time. And then I did a few more years of therapy and realised that there was some kind of weird process that was going off, and at some point it's faded. Whilst I've worked on other stuff, it's taken out the underlying cause of whatever that was, and it's faded away. And I actually turned around and went to him, actually, I think planning our meals for the week would be a really good idea, and it's brilliant. Now I don't have to worry if I'm hungry. I just go and look at the fridge and it tells me what to eat. And it's easy because I've already got it all planned, so I know everything's in. We've already got all the food because we've done the shopping for it. I just have to go, today is, oh, that lovely Chinese meal that I bought for myself. There we go, yum, 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 yum. Super easy. Nothing goes out of date because I plan it into the calendar before it goes out of date. And, oh, brilliant. So, looking after yourself, I speak from very, very personal experience, is an extremely important thing to learn to do. And again, it's another thing that people don't necessarily teach. It's something that people are assumed, it's assumed that people will just pick up from their parents, and that's not necessarily true. If you have somewhat dysfunctional parents, and you don't have an opportunity to learn to look after yourself through other means, you will not magically learn how to look after yourself. It's like parenting. There are parenting classes because whilst being a parent and feeling parental are natural things to happen, being a good parent and knowing how to handle things or being prepared, they are not natural. They require classes and work and teaching and community and communication and support. And this I'm just talking about from watching other people go through it. So, to pull all of that into the highly sensitive people context, there's this idea of Maya talked about saying, can you please turn off that speaker because I can hear it humming, and even if no one else can, it's bothering me. And having enough self-worth and enough, having part of you that says, you know what, that's bothering me, I'm going to ask that it be resolved, because turning it off isn't going to bother anyone else. Yeah, you interrupt whatever's happening for a few seconds, but I'm sure she didn't scream in the middle of a frickin' piece they're rehearsing, no, I can't take it anymore! And if she did, then fine, but there's more constructive ways to go about it. But that you look after yourself, because, you know what, if you're impacted by something, you do something about it. And this is such a novel idea, sometimes, for so many people. that I am telling you that you deserve to look after yourself. You are worthy of looking after yourself. You are knit-worthy and you are self-care worthy. Oh. And I keep saying, the context of highly sensitive people, it's talking about somebody who is very aware of what their senses are telling them, and often picks up things that other people don't, or is more easily overwhelmed by sensory input. So being surrounded by crowds and you can't focus because there's too many sources of noise, as opposed to being agoraphobic or claustrophobic or whatever, or worried about the crowd in a social sense. That kind of sensory overload of there's too much colour, there's too much noise, I can't deal with it, I can't process what's going on, because you're getting, as a highly sensitive person, you're getting more information in than everyone else. So it's not that you're broken, it's that you're more sensitive. It's that you receive more into your nervous system than other people do. They have more filtering. And there's pros and cons. So looking after yourself means acknowledging that that is how you work, that you are different to many other people and different to the way that mainstream society is set up for. And just acknowledge that that means that you have to do some stuff, take some responsibility for looking after yourself, and do some stuff to mitigate some of the things that our culture doesn't do for us. So it might be giving yourself permission to not go out. And I hear people kind of going, you know, there was a comedy on Radio 4 and she was like, oh, you know, if you don't want to go out, you say, oh, no, I can't come out, I'm ill. And I'm like, sorry, she had an accent, I don't know why I felt the need to try and badly replicate it. And I'm like, no. I just go, no thanks. It's that simple, right? You just go, no thank you, I don't want to do that. And if you think the other person's particularly sensitive, you can go, I hope you know that I still love you, and it's not about you, it's about me needing some time out socially, and I just want to stay home and knit, or read a book, or sit in front of the fire or something, or go to bed early. I'm frazzled, I'm tired, I just need time for me. But at a very basic level, all you need to say is no thank you. That's it. It really is that simple. And we tend to blow things out of proportion and go, oh, but what if, and they're going to hate me, or da-da-da. Try it. I tell you, if they hate you for it, if they hate you for it, that's because they're a bleep, 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 bleep word. And if they don't hate you for it, they're a friend, and they won't mind, and they will love you for setting boundaries, because they'll know that when you do say yes, you're going to show up, and you're going to be there, and you're not going to turn up to something and then be sat in the corner sulking or being miserable, because I promise you, that is no fun to be around people. If you do not want to go out, don't go out. Don't go, and then be a Mardy bum. The other thing that I touched on a second ago, pros and cons, was actually being a highly sensitive person is a positive thing. One of the things that slightly upset me, not in an empathising way, but in a, oh no, Maya, no way, was she talked about being kind of sad at being a highly sensitive person. And I might have misunderstood, but I got the feeling that maybe this was a little overwhelming on you for her. Well, she said it was overwhelming on you for her, but that she was seeing it as a negative, seeing it as a, I can't do what other people do. And there is truth in that, because there are some things that don't suit highly sensitive people, as in very stimulating environments. And then there's, actually, you can do what other people can't do. So one of my personal ones is, I'm really good at understanding what's going on behind what you say. And I have to think about it, because I put a lot of filters in over my highly sensitive self. I constructed a different self, which was incredibly gregarious, incredibly outgoing, very brash and very loud, and that was my defence mechanism. I think I've talked about that before. And behind it was this very highly sensitive person, James. So I have to really sink back into myself, and it also means opening up myself. So I'll only do it for somebody that I would care about enough to go to that place. But if I do, I generally am, without wanting to toot my own horn too much, very astute as to what's happening with somebody. And I can really feel what's going on with that other person. In a way that other people can't. I can do something other people can't do because I'm a highly sensitive person. Now there are other people who are more highly sensitive than me, and in fact my other half probably comes under that label. He will smell things and hear things that I can't pick up. And it amazed me for the first 6 months when we first got our rabbit. He would say, "Oh, you know, the rabbit's grunting." And I'd be like, "I don't hear a thing." And then after about 6 months I finally learned to hear it, and now I can hear bunnies grunting all the time. Not all the time, I mean when bunnies are grunting I can always hear it. It's just, I hear bunnies grunting all the time. So if you think bunnies are silent animals, think again people, they're just very quiet. You have to be highly sensitive to pick up on a bunny's moods. So people that are really loud with bunnies and pet them and what have you, it's like, oh, don't do that. Bunnies are highly sensitive animals. They need highly sensitive owners. So you can really look after a bunny well. You can be a good bunny owner if you're a highly sensitive person, because you'll be really in tune with that animal. And that's also true for others, but I think maybe like a really loud barky dog, I would find a bit like, oh God, can somebody please just take him away for a bit? I can't deal with him. Some stuff I can do, some stuff I can. And there's probably 100 other examples, and I would love if you guys want to share your stories in the comments, in the Rav group, wherever you're watching this. There's usually going to be a chat box below it, on the blog even. I let something slip out early. You know, tell me about what you guys find, because I reckon there's going to be a really interesting conversation that we could have about that. And one of the things Mai was saying was that she thinks the knitting community contains a lot of highly sensitive people. And I can really see that, because yarn is a really tangible pleasure. It is the feel of it on our skin, it is the smell of it, it is the sight of the colours and the way the colours work together, it is the feel of the fabric, it's the feel of the knitted garment, it's how it wears, how it drapes, how it looks on you, how it looks on other people. This is all sensory information, and as a highly sensitive person you can have a really profound experience from something like a stripy variegated hat, because whereas a less sensitive person would maybe just see a hat and just go, yeah, it's an orange hat, what? It's pretty, it's a nice hat, but what? You're kind of going, but oh, the shades and the way they work together, and okay, I'm talking about my hat because yes, I love my hat just a little bit, but you know, when I pick up these yarns and I feel them and I look at them and I have to smell them. I don't know if you spotted that, but I have. When I'm watching these back to edit them, I notice I'm always smelling my yarn and rubbing it on my face and what have you, because it's that really visceral experience that I get when I'm using, playing with, looking at, buying yarn, that it's just such a pleasure, so pleasurable to have, that being a highly sensitive person gives you access to that realm that other people don't have. So I really want to just promote awareness of highly sensitive person as an idea, so that if you think it's something that relates to you, you can join in this discovery of yourselves. To talk to each other about this if it's something that interests you, so that we have community around this. And to celebrate being a highly sensitive person, whilst also learning how to look after yourself as a highly sensitive person. So it's not about managing the stuff you can't do, and it's not about, dealing with the horrible oppressive outside world, because everyone has stuff they have to learn how to deal with. We just have this in common with each other as highly sensitive people, and we can share tips and tricks. So it's just like anybody else, we learn how to exist in the world and look after ourselves as who we are, and we can celebrate the awesomeness that is being a highly sensitive person. And I actually have 2 books. See, I said this was a book podcast. About highly sensitive people I bought a while ago, initially for my other half, because I read about it and really related it to him, and then it wasn't until I read them for myself that I realised actually I'm a highly sensitive, and it really surprised me because, as I said, I had such a brash outside personality, but it resonated on such a level that I thought, hang on, there's something in this, and it was part of that initial sort of paradox that I've had to resolve about my own personality. You know, a paradox is just a question you haven't answered yet, usually. That's what I find anyway, particularly if it's like a paradox in your own personality, because it's very aphorismistic. Aphorism. It was an aphorism to say a paradox is just a question you haven't answered yet. But if you have a paradox in yourself, so, you know, I really like beans, but I don't like beans, but obviously something that actually makes sense or exists, although maybe that does, then you just need to look at the wider context of it and understand how both things are actually true for you at the same time. And so in this case, I was brash and I was also highly sensitive, and that exists. So there is just the highly sensitive person, and then there is the highly sensitive person in love, which obviously, you know, I was thinking would help us to have a better relationship. And they're both by a lady called Elaine N. Aaron. And if you do go and Google highly sensitive person, as Maya suggests, then, you know, her website is what will come up, her research is what will come up. And, you know, like, it's a self-help book, so it's that kind of format which not everybody can get along with, but even when I was reading books that I didn't really like the way the content was presented, I often found that if I waded through it and pulled out the content that was relevant to me, I got a lot out of it still. So I would still suggest your library, or, you know, cheap online second-hand bookstores or local second-hand bookstores, or if you really have to, then an online chain or something like that. If you really have to. But totally worth checking out. Now, if at this point you're starting to squint at the screen and you can't really see me, then yes, it's actually getting late and the sun's going down and I'm still talking. So I should probably wrap it up. And the last thing to really add in at the end was my podcast news. And I mentioned already the blog word. The reason for that being, I was chatting with Zena at Bakewell, and she was telling me that she watches a lot of podcasts at speed and a half. And I was like, oh, that's clever. I'd never thought of that. I just watch everything real time and just sit through it. And I was like, oh, that's quite clever. Now, I think it's one of those things you can train yourself up to be able to take information in at that speed. I think I would struggle because I'm not very good at listening. I have to kind of see. And at that speed, I'd probably just have to stare at the screen to be able to process it. But she said you can't do that with YouTube videos. And I was like, oh, and she showed me the little app she uses and what have you, and she said with iTunes you can do it, and if you allow a download of the video, you can do it. So I had a chat with her about that and the different options and stuff. And I remembered speaking to Cece, who I met at Yarndale from Geeky Girls Knits, and she'd said something about archive.org. So I went and checked all of that out, and I have found a way to host the video files themselves to be available for download from archive.org, and in order to share them with yourselves without you having to go and browse through this clunky website and what have you, and so as I've got an RSS feed, I've also got a blog on my hosting setup. So you can go to dancinggeek.co.uk, dancinggeek's all one word, .co.uk. I'm still working on uploading the back catalogue. As I talk to you, I'm uploading the older episodes to archive.org to be able to then stream them and share them and what have you. But they are a smaller video file, so they're a lower resolution. So if you want to stream, I'd recommend still using YouTube to do that. But if you want to download or you want to use an RSS feed for your podcasting, you will now be able to do that. Excuse me, my phone's even telling me to stop. So, that's reminding me I've got somewhere to go this evening. It's 6 o'clock, people. How did it get this late? Oh my god. I've got a lot of editing to do with this. This ain't going to be around till Thursday, I can tell. But yeah, so dancinggeek.co.uk, you'll have the embedded video player from YouTube. You'll have a link to just download the file automatically. There's an RSS feed on the homepage you can use. And I'm also going to feed that RSS feed to iTunes once I've got a few more episodes uploaded, and I've got to create some cover art. And it needs to be much bigger than the sort of small stuff I did for YouTube and Ravelry, so I need to go and work something out for that doesn't look awful. Once I've got that sorted, then I'll be able to put it into iTunes as well. So very soon, hopefully this week. So please spread the word if you know people in other groups that only use iTunes or RSS feeds. I would love for you to be able to go, hey, look, this podcast is now available for you guys as well. It's not only on YouTube. And I will continue that going forward. I don't see any reason why I wouldn't. But as I say, because I talk for like 2 hours, I reduce the file size down as much as I can while still being watchable to see the knitting and what have you. And that's coming out at about 1 gigabyte for a podcast. The mega episode 5 is about 1.5 gigabytes. So it's not small, but that's what you're downloading when you stream it anyway, so it's whatever suits you. Right, and that is enough blethering, as Helen would say. It's been a long one, I get the feeling. It has had lots of interruptions. I went and had a meal halfway through. I hope you can tell I perked up as a result of that. And there's bits and bobs of editing that I need to do anyway. So I'm going to say goodbye for this week and hopefully get this loaded up sharpish so that you guys can enjoy more of me and I can enjoy more of you guys telling me what you've been up to whilst you've been listening to this. Bye guys, love you.